Good morning to everyone, and thanks for being with us this morning. This is Colin Msibi from the Department of Transport. We are about to start, so we want to sort out the seating arrangements. This is how it's gonna pan out. We're going to request the chairpersons to take their seats in the front, which is a part of the panel right where I am. So the chairpersons must move forward so that they can take their rightful positions in the front. And then the CEOs would have to take the front row of the round tables together with their executives where they would need to sit. So once again, chairpersons right in the front as part of the panel. And then the CEOs, they take the front seat, including their ExCos, including the ExCo of the Department of Transport. So if we can do that, and then everybody else at the back, the officials and the media, if they can also be seated. The minister is on his way, is about to join us. So please, if we can move accordingly. Thank you. And colleagues, if we can just move forward, those who are sitting at the back rather occupy the tables in the front so that we close the gaps in the front, and then at least those who come late, they can sit at the back. So please, if we can do that. The table right there, the corner, please, if you can just come forward, please. On my left corner, please, if you can do that. chairpersons and CEOs and the ExCos, just on the issue of connectivity, we've got the Wi-Fi. You can just go to Tsoho-san and then accept the terms and conditions. You don't need any password. So you can just go Tsoho-san, accept the conditions, then we are in. So that's the connectivity that you need to use. Once again, on the running order, I see the chairpersons are already have taken their place. And then the CEOs will take the front row. And all right. Good morning once again. Just as a repeat, for those who have just come in, I was interrupted by TV interviews. I had to stop initially. As I said, the sitting arrangement, our chairpersons are already on stage. That's where we expect them to be. They're going to be sitting with the minister and the deputy minister and the DG right at the front. And then the CEOs will take the front row round tables where they will sit with their excos. So we expect you to be right at the front, including the exco of DOT. They also need to be at the front. As you know, this is a media event, so we would expect anytime the chairperson or the minister might decide that the CEO or the executive needs to respond to a specific question. So hence, we would want you to be right at the front. So please, if we can just follow that. In terms of connectivity, we've said Tsogo-san. You just go on Wi-Fi, Tsogo-san, and you accept the terms and conditions, and that's it. You don't need any password. Thank you. The minister is on his way, so we're about to start. Hence, we ask people to start taking their seats. Thank you. May we all rise, please? Okay, we may be seated. Our program director will now take over from here, Mr. Tim Modise.
Thank you very much, Dr. Msibi. Good morning, fellow South Africans. Minister, good morning. I'm sorry that you had to sit down. I'm going to ask you to stand up again for the singing of the national anthem, and then we'll get the program underway right away. Thank you. Thank you. You may take your seats. Today we are gathered here, ladies and gentlemen, to engage with the various entities that fall under the Ministry of Transport. And I'm pleased that the Minister of Transport, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, is here with us. He's going to brief us later on. Minister, welcome. Thank you very much for arranging that the department puts this stakeholder engagement opportunity together. And various stakeholders within the transport sector have also been invited to come and engage with the leadership of the various entities. The way we're going to run the setup today is that shortly I'll be reading you the remarks from the Minister, the Deputy Minister of Transport, who's on her way here, but we did not want to delay the proceedings. And thereafter, I'll call on the Minister of Transport, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, to make his remarks. And then the acting DG, Mr. Mthunzi Madia, will brief us on the performance of the various entities. And as soon as he's done, we'll also get to appreciate what the mandates are of the different entities. Then we will give the stakeholders the opportunity to raise whatever issues you may have that you want to raise with the respective entities, and then get comments from the podium here, as well as we may ask one or two of the representatives of the respective entities to respond to your specific questions, and then media engagement towards the end of the proceedings. So we want to run relatively a tight ship so that we are done by 1:45, the latest, but 1:45 is what we are targeting. So without further ado, let me go to the remarks by the Deputy Minister of Transport, Honorable Sindiswe Chikunga, whose remarks start by acknowledging your presence here, Honorable Minister of Transport, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, the Minister's advisors, Mr. Lawrence Venkile, Mr. Kaiser Koza, the Acting Director General, Mr. Mtunzi Madia, the chairpersons of the boards and board members of all transport state-owned entities, CEOs of the SOEs and captains of the transport industry present, the senior management within the Department of Transport, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. The Ministry of Transport extends a warm welcome to you all. We are pleased to have you with us for this important media briefing on the state of transport entities. And we're meeting today after the October Transport Month, which is the Department of Transport's annual campaign that showcases service delivery across all transport modes within the entire transport sector. OTM, also a platform to create awareness, to share information, to educate each other on the improvements and investments that are being made in the transport systems as a way of enabling economic activities for the whole of South Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the transport portfolio is one of the major and most strategic portfolios within the National Cabinet cluster of economic departments. And this is because of its contribution to the economy, the country's infrastructure, and the overall developmental role in improving the lives of the people that we serve as government. As the National Department of Transport, we are committed to our mission, that is to lead the development of an integrated and efficient transport system by creating a framework of sustainable policies, regulations, and implementable models to support government strategies for economic, social, and international development. And these are driven by the strategic objectives, and those are of ensuring safety and security improvement, reducing infrastructure backlog, improving access, reducing time in transit, and implementing competitive transport costs. We continue to work together with our state-owned entities to improve performance, restore confidence, whilst carrying out our oversight role. We must, in the strongest sense, commend the work done by our transport boards, the CEOs and staff of the various entities for their dedication and continued efforts to ensure that work continues in the face of challenges that are brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, which impacted the financial stability whilst presenting socio-economic and operational challenges. The purpose of the meeting, ladies and gentlemen, is firstly, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa requires all spheres of government to provide effective, efficient, transparent, accountable, and coherent government services to the citizens of South Africa to secure the well-being of the people and the progressive realization of their constitutional rights. Therefore, as part of the service delivery improvement, the purpose of today's media briefing is to create a platform wherein the transport sector and industry will receive a comprehensive overall economic recovery plan by the sector, to receive the bill of health of all the state-owned entities and their state of readiness to implement economic recovery reforms, and lastly, to discuss the strategic role that has to be played by both macro and micro businesses in the transport industry, and to achieve a sustainable growth path and to realize the DOT's vision of transport being the heartbeat of South Africa's economic growth and social development. We need to be able to articulate the critical issues that will enable us to change the state of affairs by aligning the implementation of our programs in a manner that responds to the challenges of the day, but further adhere to the National Development Plan 2030. The biggest threat to our democracy now is not only the legacy and scars of our past and the devastating impact of the pandemic that we have experienced, but the possible collapse of institutions which may happen as a result of challenges of maladministration in governance, management, and financial systems. We all have a responsibility to ensure that stability is maintained in the department and its entities, Hence, the presidential #1 priority, that is of building a capable, capacitated, ethical, and developmental state, which is the bedrock of all other priorities and must form the basis of all our interventions. Ladies and gentlemen, as government, we've been tasked to pen a chapter of new hope. At the center of this new chapter is the strengthening of governance and fighting corruption to deliver on the aspirations of all South Africans as stated in the Freedom Charter. The Constitution and the National Development Plan guided by ethical leadership. This new hope in the midst of uncertainty also deepens the need to urgently strengthen our governing and management capacity, efficiency, and fiduciary responsibilities in the state-owned entities. As the transport sector, it is part of our culture to always look for ways on how to improve our service offerings to provide more, faster, efficient, safe, secure, equitable, and affordable transport services. Coupled with this, we are continuously learning to also celebrate and share our achievements, which contribute positively to the success of the transport sector. We are simultaneously focusing on the critical role that our strategic stakeholders play in the transport industry, in our transport entities, as well as in the collective transport sector's economic recovery and the contribution to the national agenda. And ladies and gentlemen, we do trust that you will utilize this platform meaningfully in a manner that will add value to the sector and stimulate important discussions that will change transport sector for the better. Now, I need to remind you that these are not my personal remarks. Okay, this is the statement on behalf of the Deputy Minister of Transport, Sindiswe Chikunga, who was meant to make the remarks, and I'm saying it in case somebody says, "Ow, who joined in to go transport?" It's a worker, swearing mashilling, the entities, and then I like to talk a lot about rail-related issues myself, but since I changed, you know, as I tell you, worried, now he's saying something else. So I hope that settles the matter once and for all. But having said that, there's serious business at hand. There's no time to waste. And with that in mind, Minister Fikile Mbalula, please come to the lectern here so you can share with us the agenda and your priorities. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Tim Mudise. Ladies and gentlemen, captains of industry in the different entities of transport, leadership, members of the board of different entities, CEOs of our entities. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. I thought Brad Tim was going to introduce who is here before I speak. But nonetheless, I think that acknowledgement will be done. The Deputy Minister is running late. She's coming from KwaZulu-Natal. Nonetheless, she was supposed to be on time. She will then join us in the process. And thank you for those remarks from the Deputy Minister of Transport. Acting Director General, Tunzi Madia, and all officials of the Department of Transport present here today. When we assumed office in 2019, we made a firm commitment to transform the sector and implement tangible programs that will make a contribution towards realizing a better life for all South Africans. The onset of COVID-19 pandemic had a major disruptive effect, and the transport sector was severely affected. No mode of transport was spared, and all our entities were affected. We worked hard to put measures in place to cushion this impact and ensure that our public entities continue to render the critical services they are mandated to provide. The 5 strategic priorities, which form the bedrock of our strategic plan in the 6th administration, cut across the mandates of all our entities. These entities are the implementing arms of the department and exist to give expression to the National Transport Policy as encoded in the White Paper on National Transport Policy. The transport portfolio is made up of the department, its 13 public entities, and a trading account. The department's budget for the current financial year, as announced in February, budget is 66.7 billion, of which 65.3 billion constitutes transfers and subsidies. This translates to 98% of the department's budget channeled through our entities, provinces, private enterprises, and other entities to advance the implementation of the department's mandate. Private enterprises funded by the department are bus companies that benefit from public transport subsidies. Other entities include organizations such as the National Sea Rescue Institute, NSRI, the Mountain Club of South Africa, and the South African National Taxi Council, SANTACO. This picture demonstrates the need for a very tight alignment between the oversight responsibility of the department and the actual implementation driven by entities. There must always be a direct line of sight between the strategic priorities in the department's strategic plan, the ministerial targets in the performance agreement of the minister, and the plans of the entities. It is important to note that since we came into office, we have been emphatic in our message of good governance as a golden thread that must permeate through all our activities. The Auditor General has noted improvement in governance across our entities, while raising concerns about emerging risks in entities such as Artia and the going concern issue in respect of Sandra, as a consequence of delays in making the final decision on e-tolls. That decision on e-tolls will be made. The minister will speak to that in February. We had agreed that he will do that in the midterm budget speech. It is quite clear in terms of the decision, consultation process from the side of Treasury have not been finalized. And by the time we get to February budget, the minister will speak on that particular matter, and we would have gone to cabinet to endorse whatever we would have agreed to with the minister. Cabinet will have to take it as its decision. So the announcement that will be made in the February budget will be a cabinet decision by the Minister of Finance. So there have been delays with regard to this, and delays are informed partly because the decision we've got to make, either way, have got financial implications. And those financial implications we need to respond to. Whilst we address another problem, we don't open a hole on the other side. And that is what is important. Now, the people we're borrowing from, we engage with them, they said to us, look, whether you scrap or you do anything, how we get our money, it will be your decision. But you need to make any decision with regard to that matter. So we don't have a bigger challenge in relation to that from the point of view of our lenders. But how it affects us, it is a matter that Treasury is dealing with that in terms of South Africa's standing and the borrowing broadly going forward. The number of entities that have achieved clean audit has increased from 4 to 5. The other 5 entities achieved unqualified with findings audit outcomes, while the remaining 4 audits are still pending. The Auditor General has observed that the entities who are doing well to create stability and drive clean administration is CBRTA, SACA, DLCA, RSR, and Ports Regulator. And this needs to translate. You can clap for that. And this needs to translate to a correlation between clean administration and quality service delivery in the portfolio. Incurring irregular expenditure remains a source for concern. The AG noted that PRASA, AXA, and Sanral were the main contributors to irregular expenditure. PRASA's irregular expenditure amounts to 742 million rands, while Sanral and AXA have incurred 175 million rands and 282 million in irregular expenditure, respectively. In respect of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, AXA was the largest contributor to the tune of 75.9 million rands, followed by PRASA at 15.3 million rands and RTMC at 7.4 million rands. Strengthening our capacity to deliver quality service to the citizenry requires of the department and its entities to ensure that professionals with requisite skills, qualifications, and drive are recruited. The recruitment and other career incidents of employees are the responsibility of the board. The board, therefore, has a responsibility to ensure that labor laws and internal policies are followed to the letter when dealing with career incidents of employees. A number of key policy developments intended to enhance our service delivery agenda and give the Khawuleza ethos practical expression across the sector. Key among these is the economic regulation of transport bill, which is currently before Parliament. Its promulgation will transform the face of the industry and make decisive interventions to level the playing field and allow for greater economic participation by SMMEs. The transport economic regulator that will be established will aggressively drive interventions that will ensure competitiveness of the sector and lower barriers to entry to sectors that have historically been a preserve of the few. The competitiveness of our ports remains one of the key strategic drive of economic growth that will be given impetus by this policy direction. The monopolies in rail not only negatively affect competitiveness, but also stifle efficiencies in both freight and passenger rail. The resolution of outstanding issues between PRASA and Transnet, which mainly relate to access to each other's network, will find a speedy resolution. While economic regulation is not a new function, it is currently fragmented along modal lines. The consolidation of economic regulation under a single institutional arrangement will ensure effectiveness. Entities such as the Ports Regulator, the regulating committee established in terms of the Airports Company Act, will be immediately affected by the promulgation of the law, as these entities will fold into the economic regulator. The new economic regulation institutional framework will also impact on the mandates of entities such as the International Air Services Licensing Council, the Air Services Licensing Council, the Railway Safety Regulator, the National Public Transport Regulator, and the South African National Roads Agency Limited. Now, coming to maritime sector, inefficiencies in container freight, rail and port services raise the cost of South Africa's imports and make the country's exports less competitive. To address this, we are working closely with the Minister of Public Enterprise in implementing a number of structural reforms. Most notable is the establishment of the National Ports Authority as an independent subsidiary of Transnet, which will undoubtedly improve competitiveness of our ports and boost investor confidence. You will have seen sometime this year, myself, Minister Gordon, and the President, we unveiled this and its implementation. And this will increase a big potential for our ports, particularly Durban, and bring us to the spot that we're at in terms of the African continent and globally. South Africa's 2,800 kilometers long coastline requires significant resources and capacity to service the country's obligations to the International Maritime Organization. An internal study of the department has indicated that at least 9 tugboats are required to service South Africa's coastline and waters. The South African Maritime Safety Authority, SAMSA, was established to advance South Africa's maritime interests, which include ensuring the safety of life and property at sea, as well as preventing and combating pollution of the marine environment. SAMSA is expected to increase its expenditure at an average annual rate of 3.6% from 531.2 million in 2021 to 590.8 million in 2023-2024. Revenue is generated by levies, fees, and user charges, which are expected to increase at an average annual rate of
1 2 1 2 1 2 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 1 2 3 4.
Hello? Okay. 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2. SAMSA is experiencing challenges, ladies and gentlemen, both at board and operational level. For a number of years, SAMSA has operated without a CEO. The board has expedited the process to recruit a CEO, and we hope to finalize this matter during the course of 2022. The SAMSA audit is yet to be completed by the Auditor General. On the Ports Regulator of South Africa, the Ports Regulator of South Africa was established to regulate South Africa's commercial ports by considering tariff increases of the National Ports Authority and regulating the provision of adequate, affordable and efficient port services and facilities. This includes hearing complaints and appeals aimed at ensuring fairness, transparency and competitive practices in the port system. The Ports Regulator improved its audit outcome from an unqualified audit with findings to a clean audit. Road sector. With an allocation of 104.3 billion over the period ahead, the department's road transport program facilitates activities related to the maintenance of South Africa's national and provincial road network. The South African National Roads Agency, SANRAL, plays a crucial role in programs related to upgrading, maintaining and strengthening national toll and non-toll roads. Transfers to SANRAL account for 31% of the department's budget and 62.2% of the department's budget for the road transport program. A core focus over the MTF period is the R573, better known as Moloto Road, which is allocated 2.7 billion rand. Transfers to fund reduced tariffs for the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project amount to 2 billion rand over the medium term. So whatever you do, we need to get money somewhere in terms of the e-tolls. So it's not an easy decision you scrap and then you go away. It is not like that. It's not how it is simple. It has been simplified over the years. So the beautiful roads you're traveling in terms of reducing congestion, particularly in Gauteng, is as a result of these particular interventions. So when we take a different approach, it will also affect how we are going to fund road maintenance and upgrading of roads in South Africa going into the future. So the funding model must also be considered. So it's not a decision that the Minister of Transport arrived at unilaterally without Treasury. And that is why Treasury is important in relation to this decision with regard to the e-tolls. So you pay for the beautiful roads you see and you are traveling on and so on. So when you protest that and you attack me on Twitter that I must stop talking certain things and fix potholes, you must understand where does the resources come to fix those potholes and improve our road infrastructure in the country. While 53.6% or 34.8 billion rand of allocation to SANRAL are to maintain the national network of non-toll roads. The maintenance of provincial roads is largely funded through the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant with an allocation of 37.5 billion rand over the medium term. The 22,253 kilometers of our national road network that SANRAL is responsible for plays a critical role as a primary network in enabling economic activity, linking the economic hubs of our provinces with regional and international markets. This is complemented by the secondary and tertiary road networks that enable access to centers of economic activity and social infrastructure and amenities for our communities. More than 76% of land freight is hauled on our roads, accounting for 73.8% of total land freight income. This reality places a heavy burden on our road network and requires significant resources for maintenance and rehabilitation. Our objective to migrate 10% of road freight to rail is meant to alleviate this pressure and preserve the longevity and pristine nature of our national road network. SANRAL, therefore, has a key role to play in enabling this shift from road to rail and must work with the department and other organs of state to realize this. Our target to achieve a 25% reduction of fatalities on our roads by 2024 requires closer collaboration and creative solutions. It is therefore imperative in the execution of our role as a champion for the North-South corridor of the African Union, SANRAL has a key responsibility to lead the charge, working with fellow African countries and state agencies to drive the roads agenda. SANRAL is therefore working towards developing and strengthening partnerships with countries in SADC region and across the continent to advance sustainable road infrastructure development. SANRAL will continue to pursue opportunities to assist and build the capacity of other road authorities on the continent by providing commercial engineering advisory and commercial services. Through this collaboration, projects have been realized with African roads authorities in Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. The overall audit outcome of SANRAL has remained unchanged as financially unqualified opinion with findings during the last 4 years. The Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, CBRTA, was established to improve the cross-border flow of passenger and freight transport operators and regulate market access. As a self-funded entity, the agency's primary source of revenue is permit fees. Revenue is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 12.4% from 217 million in 2021-2022 to 307.9 million in 2023-2024. We must commend the CBRTA for achieving a clean audit in the 2020-2021 audit outcomes. The driving license card account, DLCA, is a trading account responsible for manufacturing driving license cards based on orders received from driving license testing centers across South Africa. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 3.7% from 201.3 million in 2021 to 224.5 million rands in 2023-2024. Spending on production and infrastructure accounts for 72.8% or 486 million of its total expenditure. The entity generates revenue through the sale of driving license cards. Revenue is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 11.5% from 202.2 million rands in 2020-2021 to 280.1 million rands in 2023-2024. We must commend the DLCA for achieving a clean audit in the 2020-2021 audit outcomes. The Road Accident Fund is mandated to compensate South African road users for losses or damages caused by motor vehicle accidents within the borders of South Africa. The fund derives its revenue from the fuel levy. Revenue from the fuel levy is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 5.8% from 38.1 billion in 2020-2021 to 45.2 billion rand in 2023-2024. Claims against the fund have increased at an average annual rate of 8.4% from 61.3 billion in 2017-2018 to to 78.2 billion in 2022-2021, and are expected to increase to 102.9 billion by 2023-2024. As a result, the accumulated deficit is expected to increase from 367.7 billion rand in 2021 to 518.7 billion in 2023-2024. The Auditor General is yet to conclude the RAF audit. The Road Traffic Infringement Agency was established to administer procedures that discourage the contravention of road traffic laws by enforcing penalties and providing community awareness programs. With the rollout of the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act, ARTO, the role of RTI in ensuring that we arrest fatalities on our roads and achieve our 25% target by 2024 will be central. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 14.9% from 316.2 million 2020-2021 to 479.1 million by 2023-2024. The agency derives its revenue mainly through administrative penalties and departmental transfers. Revenue is expected to increase in line with expenditure due to the planned increase in transfers from the department to implement the national rollout of ARTO. The Auditor General is yet to conclude the RTIA audit. RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, was established to provide national road traffic strategic planning and law enforcement, and pool public sector resources for provision of road traffic management. The overall audit outcome of the RTMC has remained unqualified with findings on compliance and no findings on the audit of predetermined objectives. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 11.7% from 1.1 billion in 2020-2021 to 1.6 billion in 2023-2024, mainly due to operational expansions relating to the electronic National Traffic Information System and the road traffic law enforcement training. As a result, spending on operations and law enforcement is expected to account for 42.6% or 2 billion rand of expenditure over the period ahead. Revenue is mainly generated through transaction fees from the electronic National Traffic Information System, INATIS, and transfers from the department. Total revenue is expected to increase in line with expenditure, mainly driven by significant increases in collections from road traffic infringement fees and user charges related to the INATIS. We are hard at work in ensuring that the RTMC is able to fulfill its mandate as articulated in its founding legislation. Key amongst our intervention is the consolidation of the traffic management value chain, which includes ensuring a seamlessly integrated business process at the driving license testing centers and the transfer of driving license card account to the RTMC. The audit outcome for the RTMC is unqualified with findings. Rail sector. Transfers to the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA, in the rail transport program account for an estimated 27.2% or 57 billion rand of the department's budget over the period ahead. However, the agency has struggled for many years to roll out its modernization program, which is meant to improve the reliability of services and increase the number of passengers. The modernization program entails focused spending on repairs and the maintenance as part of the agency's rolling stock fleet renewal program, as well as improved security. Delays in the rolling stock fleet renewal program, along with poor spending on rail infrastructure and the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically lockdown restrictions, necessitated the reprioritization of funds to support other entities in the transport sector. Following a prolonged period of instability, we have recently appointed a permanent board of control, which is leading the intensified implementation of PRASA's modernization program. Over the medium term, capital transfers to PRASA are expected to increase at an average annual rate 164.3% from 700 million in 2020 to 2021 to 12.9 billion in 2023-2024. To offset revenue loss during the COVID-19 lockdown, operational transfers were temporarily increased in 2020-2021, accommodated by reduction to capital budgets. However, as we revert to normal operators over the medium term, operational transfers to the agency are expected to decrease at an average annual rate of 5% from 8.8 billion rand in 2020-2021 to 7.5 billion in 2023-2024. PRASA continues to grapple with capacity challenges, which manifest itself in its inability to accelerate spending on its capital program. Minister of Finance, when I met with him, he said to me, give me a guarantee that you'll be able to spend CAPEX at PRASA. I said, I'm coming, and I'm still coming back to him because this is what the board and the executives of PRASA, in terms of our compact, they are supposed to produce. I'm sure captains of industry here will tell a story about PRASA. GO contracts are still not issued. Companies are closing down because PRASA is not doing what it's supposed to do. People are not paid on time. I've got a lot of complaints, people who got contracts, they were given jobs, they rendered services at PRASA, they are not being paid. How will you sustain a company if you are in the rail sector that doesn't pay you for your services? Now, these are some of the challenges that we need to address at PRASA. The group has spent 32% or 62.2 billion of its budgeted capital to date. Indeed, there are many factors that contribute to the slow spending, which include protracted procurement processes. While PRASA is struggling to spend its capital budget on the one hand, it is facing a cash flow crisis in relation to its operational budget. The general overhaul program aimed at maintaining the current trains has experienced long delays over time due to procurement delays. However, the procurement process for this program is nearing finalization. This will contribute significantly in stimulating local job creation in the sector and achieving quicker turnaround times in returning damaged coaches to service. Delays in finalizing the infrastructure upgrades in the central line in Cape Town have a knock-on impact on the planned return to service of commuter rail in this critical corridor. Despite the Cape Town High Court granting PRASA an order to remove all illegal settlements on the central line, resettlement of the people who have illegally occupied the rail reserve is experiencing big challenges. Similarly, the deep port modernization program has been slightly delayed due to litigation on some of the finalized appointment. PRASA has had 2 successive adverse audit outcomes been in 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 financial years. The 2020-2021 audit is yet to be completed by the Auditor General. The Auditor General is yet to conclude the PRASA audit. The Rail Safety Regulator was established to oversee and promote safe railway operations by providing an enabling national regulatory framework while monitoring and enforcing compliance in the rail sector. We must commend the Railway Safety Regulator for achieving a clean audit in 2020-2021 audit outcomes. Now I'm coming to aviation sector. I start first with the Air Traffic and Navigation Services Company, referred to as ATNS. Was established to provide safe, orderly, and efficient air traffic navigational and associated services to the air traffic management community. And in accordance with the standards set out by the International Civil Aviation Organization, expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 3.6% from 1.5 billion rand in 2020-2021 to 1.7 billion in 2023-2024. This relatively low increase is due to the implementation of cost containment and cash preservation measures following the decrease in air travel as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Revenue is derived mainly from aerodrome and route and approach fees and is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 33.9% from 660.7 million in 2021 to 1.6 billion in 2023-2024. This sharp increase is mainly due to the sharp decrease in revenue 2020-2021 because of COVID-19 travel restrictions, with air traffic operations expected to begin normalizing over the period ahead. The audit outcome for ATNS is unqualified with findings. AXA, the airports company South Africa, owns and operates 9 principal South African airports, including OR Tambo International Airport, Cape Town International Airport, and Kinshasa International Airport. Although passenger numbers fell to 10.6 million in 2020-2021 due to the decrease in air travel because of COVID-19 travel restrictions, a recovery is expected to translate to an increase to 13.9 million in 2023-2024. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 3.3% from 6 billion rand in 2020-2021 to 6.6 billion rand in 2023-2024. The borrowing plan over the medium term focuses on addressing liquidity pressures in the short term and financing a capital expenditure program of 1 billion rand per year. As a result of the decrease in air travel, revenue in 2021 decreased by 49.1% from the 2019-2020 levels. This is expected to improve over the period ahead as the company anticipates revenue to increase at an average annual rate of 14% from 4.2 billion in 2020 to 6.2 billion in 2023-2024. The audit outcome for AXA is unqualified with findings on compliance with legislation. The South African Civil Aviation Authority was established to enforce safety standards in the civil aviation industry. Expenditure is expected to increase at average annual rate of 9% from 632.9 million rand in 2020-2021 to 820.3 million in 2023-2024. The authority is expected to spend 205 million rand over the period ahead on the replacement of the flight inspection aircraft and the flight calibration equipment. The authority generates most of its revenue through passenger safety charges, user fees, and the aviation fuel levy. Revenue is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 23.3% from 437.3 million in 2020-2021 to 820.3 million in 2023-2024. This significant increase is due to the expected recovery in air passenger travel over the medium term after the sharp decrease in passenger numbers in 2020-2021 as a result of COVID-19 travel restrictions. We must also commend SACA for achieving a clean audit in the 2020-2021 audit outcomes. The Acting Director General, Mr. Madia, will take you through a detailed presentation on the state of our public entities and the interventions we seek to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Mbalula, for candid and frank assessment of the entities and for sharing openly with the stakeholders and partners in the transport sector the performance of the various agencies that fall under your portfolio. Much appreciated, and thank you very much, sir. You are going to be handed a form like this at your tables. What we want you to do is to fill in the name of your name, the name of your organization, your contact details, and then post the questions. Please make sure that you circle the sector that your organization falls under. So if it's rail, then you circle rail, maritime, the same aviation, roads, etc. The protocol officials will be handing out these forms, and this is for purposes of arranging your questions so that we can post them to the representatives of the various entities who are here. So you got that? We will be handing out these forms very shortly. At this time, let me acknowledge the representatives of the different entities that are here. PRASA, Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, represented by Mr. Leonard Ramatlakane, the chairperson, and the Road Traffic Management Corporation, RTMC, represented by the chairperson, Advocate Tate Zola Majavu. Welcome. SANRAL, South African National Road Agency Limited, represented by Dade Temba Mahambi, the chairperson. The Cross Border Road Transport Agency is represented by the acting chairperson, Melerato Mulebatsi. And the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, the board chairperson, Advocate Bongi Zulu. And the Road Accident Fund is represented by the vice chairperson, Dr. Mabuya. The Railway Safety Regulator by the chairperson, Mr. Johannes Nobunga. The Ports Regulator Authority by the CEO, Jamie Mlaudzi. SAMSA, South African Maritime Safety Authority, the chairperson, Ms. Minyika. SACA, the South African Civil Aviation Authority, represented by the chairperson, Mr. Ernest Koza. ATNS by the Air Traffic and Navigation Services, by the chairperson, Mr. Simpiwe Tobela. And AXA, the Airports Company of South Africa, represented by the board member, Nosiviwe Nokwe Makamo, and ALCA, the driving license card account, by Mr. Sandisa Tuchini. And those are the people representing the various entities here today. Now, we'll drill into the detail of the performance of these entities, and the presentation is going to be led by the acting DG, Mr. Mtunzi Madia. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Program Director. Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, board chairs that are present together with the board members, accounting officers of the DOT entities that are present, our social partners, captain of the industry, media houses, senior managers for both entities, and from the Department of Transport that will be assisting to take questions. Ladies and gentlemen, our presentation as a Department of Transport will be in twofold. We will look at the performance of the entities, notable achievements, achievements, challenges faced, because definitely we don't intend to run away from our challenges, as well as the proposed interventions. We'll also look at the contribution of the economic reconstruction and recovery of the transport sector, focus on the human resource management interventions for our entities, especially at the governance level. The consideration for rationalization of transport mandate, possible amalgamations of related entities, and the CFO of the department, Mr. Mahlala, will then take us through the financial viabilities of the entities, as well as the governance, implementation of action plans to address the Auditor General's findings, as you heard from the Minister's presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start by the performance of the entities, notable achievements, challenges faced, and the proposed interventions. We will start with rail. The primary mandate is to provide for the regulation of railway safety in the country, with the aim of improving general safety within the railway environment and ensuring that rail becomes an attractive mode of transport and contributes towards economic growth. To that effect, ladies and gentlemen, Railway Safety Bill was developed and introduced to Parliament in March 2021. We are also finalizing the draft of the private sector participation framework, as it has already been developed. To that effect, to promote greater private sector participation in the rail through granting the third-party access to the core rail network, and also the revitalization of the branch lines. Secondly, this move, which is expected to introduce competition into the market and will help address a number of challenges facing the sector, such as operational efficiency and competitive positioning, inefficiency in equipment. To put this point into reality, currently we've got one operator, especially on freight rail, that is operating South African landscape. And the capacity is not there as we speak. So, for example, the The Port of Durban handles 4.7 million TEUs per annum of containers, but we only move 550,000 containers by rail. And then the rest is moved by road. Hence, the state of our roads is in despair. So we want to change that to make sure that we introduce other operators. In fact, the rail policy promotes that we should have an infrastructure agency and then different operators that are operating that particular infrastructure so that we can be able to introduce the competition. That is how we intend to dismantle the monopoly, as we've got 4 main corridors in the rail sector as far as the freight rail is concerned, which is the Western Cape that is bringing manganese and iron ore from the Sisheni route. There's a route that is going to Richards Bay for coal, and then there's a lucrative one between Gauteng and Durban. We want to make sure that through the private participation, we are able to introduce competition. There are indeed challenges with PRASA, and the Honorable Minister alluded to that. Delays in delivery of new train sets due to COVID-19 and factory being upgraded to improve production. And to mitigate that, PRASA has since introduced the Stimela Sabantu strategic program. Basically what it means is to develop a project management unit within the office of the group executive to monitor the operationalization of all these train sets that are coming from Gibela. Non-achievement of plane passenger rail trips due to vandalism and theft of rail infrastructure, which is a reality. I think when we start talking about 2 main corridors, which are on my minister's performance agreement with the president, you'll realize the impact, the vandalism that has caused this sector. So to mitigate this challenge, ladies and gentlemen, we intend to adopt a corridor approach to service recovery plans to improve focus. And there have been specific areas that have been identified. I'm sure DDG Makaipia will be able to unpack those areas. Encroachment of railway lines on the Central Line in Cape Town. We have to relocate 7,800 families that have encroached the rail reserved for PRASA, starting from Walanga up to Kailish, is being delayed. We have since engaged and signed the implementation protocol with other departments, a Human Cycle Department as well as their implementing agency, to make sure that we provide minimum infrastructure and superstructure to relocate as we are required by law. Department of Public Works, Western Cape Government, as well as the City of Cape Town. We are working together to make sure that we are able to address this issue that is delaying the implementation of the Central Line in Cape Town. Other notable achievements, ladies and gentlemen, on the road transport is the implementation of National Road Safety Strategy, monitored nationally and in provinces. Regulation Law Enforcement Intervention Commission to improve road safety and reduce road crashes and fatalities. To this end, the reduction of road crashes, fatalities amounted to 20%, 20.27%, which is 2,534 for the 2020 calendar year, and 19.73%, which translates to 2,421 for the financial year of 2021. We must also add and qualify this statement This happened during the lockdowns, and we are hoping, working with our social partners, to make sure that we reduce this even further. We've got a 365-day arrival partnership program with our social and business partners, and had an extensive reach and impact. To that end, 2,152 activations were conducted in 2021 financial year, with a reach of 117,424 road users in the top 15 hotspots. We'll unpack those hotspots. DDG Shabisa is present here. Campaign resulted in a 23% decline in the top 5 traffic offenses relative to law enforcement, and realized 5% reductions in pedestrian fatalities, and overall 10.3% on-year reduction in overall fatalities. Ideally, we should be celebrating this, but we know that we still have a lot to do to make sure that we reduce this even further. 1.7 million driving license cards produced and distributed in 2021 financial year by DLCA. The notable achievements as we continue with the road transport: national rollout of the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences, also known as ARTO Amendment Act, approved. Minister articulated that point. New strategic plans for RAF, Road Accident Fund, successfully introduced in 2021 financial year. These new strategic plans involves a new operating model which introduces a move away from litigation, a new operating model which introduces a move away from litigations to claim management, thus prioritizing early investigation and settlement of claims within 120 days was introduced. Mandate of RAF panel of attorneys terminated to reduce legal costs and improve efficiency. More efforts were introduced to reduce medical costs, development of RAF medical tariff, implementation of treatment protocols, as well as introduction of medical pre-authorization. Under new strategic plans initiatives, RAF organizational structure and funding model reviewed to improve financial sustainability of this fund. Under CBRTA, in collaboration with RAF, developed and implemented driver fatigue management system. And this resulted system will enhance road safety, reduce road carnages on the road. Can also be used by road transport inspectors and traffic police during law enforcement operations, and uses automated Excel database. Also provide real-time capturing and analysis in terms of the created variables, ultimately converted into a report in line with a set of predetermined objectives. These are part of the initiatives that overall road safety, as driven by the department, have been initiated. National and provincial road network rehabilitation and maintenance in 2021 financial year. SANRAL covered 22,253 kilometers. SANRAL also ensured that 8% of contracts, which represent about 77% of contract value, were awarded to companies in which majority shares are owned by Black people. Black women held 12% of all contracts among Black-owned companies. 5% of the provincial road network exposed to rehabilitation, maintenance, resurfacing, resealing, blacktop patching, blending, and re-graveling during the period under the review. And this comes from the allocation the Department of Transport at national level gives to all these provinces. And I think it's important that we make sure that our oversight work to make sure the money that we allocate to the provinces does the work that it was intended to. Ladies and gentlemen, over 200,000 jobs opportunities were reported, with some opportunities being for women, youth, persons with disabilities. Challenges and interventions of DLCA, driver's license card account, which is one of the DOT entities, is the aging card production infrastructure. I think we had a discussion. In fact, the management of DLCA came to see us during the week to discuss these developments. I'm sure the minister will make some announcements in the near future with regards on the initiatives that we need to take to make sure that we curb and also respond to this aging production infrastructure, which is critical for the production of the licensing card. We intend to introduction of the new driver's license card, establish of the related infrastructure, including the new infrastructure to make sure that we remain relevant. Organizational structure not adequately aligned to mandate of DLCA. Structure revised to take into account, that is intervention, additional capacity required to fulfill the DLCA mandate. Because DLCA is a revenue generating entity, it was also affected by the COVID because of the activities that were reduced. Challenges, ladies and gentlemen, and intervention under Road Accident Fund. We spoke about high administrative cost, hence the termination of the panel of attorneys. To reduce legal and medical costs, that is an intervention. Short-term liability and recording of annual deficits, lodging of incomplete claims, manual process, ineffective ICT legacy systems. These models are being reviewed. High number of claims lodged, high accident rate support, support implementation of the National Road Safety Strategy as an intervention, inadequate legislative framework. We are trying to review the current legislation so that it talks to the mandate of Road Accident Fund. Unsustainable funding model, liquidity challenge, 15 billion bridging finance to eliminate costs associated with interest and sheriff costs, refinancing and bridge finance by debt issuance, 5 to 10 years maturity period. I'm sure the Chief Financial Officer will elaborate on this point. SANRAL challenges and interventions. Minister has touched on the e-toll saga negatively affecting the balance sheet and the financial health of SANRAL. And final decision on the GFIT is imminent, as it was pronounced by the minister. Project stalling due to community protest is also a challenge. Some of the projects are not being implemented because of the protests in those communities. The case in point is the Wild Coast N2 that is connecting KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. The implementation of the stakeholder engagement framework engage affected communities to resolve these impending issues. There's also just a general oppositions to it all. But at the end of the day, we should be able to pay for the services that we are receiving. Challenges and interventions that are affecting ARTIA. There's a low collection of infringement revenue. And ARTO intends ARTIA application developed to assist infringers to efficiently exercise elective options so that people can be able to pay for their sins. And what we are understanding that some of the South Africans are willing to pay, but is how to access those facilities. I think one of the initiatives is to make sure that the facilities where people can be able to pay for their sins are made available. Inadequate operating model. To that effect, ARTIA is reviewing the operation model so that they can be able to be efficient. Is the challenges with the rollout of ARTO. ARTO services outlet rolled out for easy access by infringers. Recruitment of appeal tribunal finalized pending promulgations of the ARTO regulations. There are, of course, notable achievements with civil aviation. Civil aviation wants to fast-track transformation in the aviation sector. Government targeted to increase the number of previously disadvantaged categories, women, youth, persons with disability, gaining critical expertise in technical aviation discipline. To that effect, there is an effort to engage with tertiary institutions to make sure that we review our MOUs so that those tertiary institutions can be able to offer or introduce aeronautical engineering disciplines at undergraduate levels. If we fail to do that, we should be willing and able to take South African youth to international platforms so that we can be able to get that training that we require. AXA Integrated Report of 2019-2020 financial year, JS Integrated Reporting Award, that was AXA, they won that. 18,902 jobs opportunities supported through AXA infrastructure program in the 2021 financial year. 3,758 opportunities supported from the CAPEX program. CTIA, Africa's leading airport, 2024 consecutive year winner. Skytrack Award, Best Airport in Africa, Best Airport Staff in Africa, Best Airport Cleanliness in Africa. I thought we will clap to that. Thank you. And then KSA Skytrack Award, Best Regional Airport in Africa. Those are the awards, ladies and gentlemen, that have been received by aviation sector. Challenges and interventions at ATNS. Non-regulated revenue decreased by 43.3% in comparison with the prior year, largely due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And ATNS is one of our shining stars, but their operation is based on the revenue that is generated through the business that they do. We intend to develop and implement recovery plan, adopt austerity measures to sustain critical and functions. The challenges that are faced by AXA is the adverse impact of the COVID-19 pandemic of AXA performance and outlook. Those interventions include the key CAPEX program deferred as part of the cost reduction initiatives. I know that AXA had budgeted about 18 billion rand when it comes to CAPEX program. They had to revise that plan. Headcount rationalization through voluntary severance packages and early retirements. De-investing from Brazil and India. Exploration of strategic initiatives for relative stability, recovery, and growth. Implementation phase of the AXA recovery and sustained strategy has started to relative stability and sustainable recovery. SACA, one of the aviation entities, its challenges increase accidents and fatalities in general aviation. Fortunately, the commercial part of the aviation hasn't been affected. Because that is catastrophic. And the intervention is SACA is in collaboration with the industry, has developed a general aviation safety strategy and is currently being implemented. Acquisition of FIU aircraft to carry out calibrations of NAVAIDS, as well as slow transformation of civil aviation industry, which is a general concern. In maritime sector, we intend to address inefficiencies in the container freight, rail, and port services that raise the cost of doing business in South Africa and make our export less competitive. A number of structural reforms have been recorded. The Honorable Minister spoke about the corporatization of National Ports Authority. And to give context to the importance of corporatizing National Ports Authority in facilitating trade so that South Africa is competitive, is one of the best performing entities within the stable of Transnet, and the Department of Transport has a responsibility in terms of exercising oversight through the National Ports Act. And you've got a ports regulator of South Africa that is affording National Ports Authority economic regulation services. If the money that is generated is also preserved within the port system, we'll be able to put the necessary infrastructure that will be able to reduce the cost of doing business. TNPA generates about 13 billion rand, and their EBITDA sits at about 8.1 billion rand. So it's a financially health institution that should be able to invest, deepen the port system, widen the entrance channels, build a new infrastructure, so that our exporters of South Africa can be able to reach their markets at a very competitive price. That is the most critical aspect of corporatizing the National Ports Authority. Processes have been initiated to award more concessions in the ports, to partner with private sector for massive investment in new container terminals, and to partner with international terminal operators to assist one of Transnet's stable, TPT, to improve its container operations. Plans are already afoot to introduce third-party access on freight rail network. I think I touched on that. A Maritime Development Fund bill has been developed. Among other things, it seeks to address the country's maritime infrastructure deficit and promote inclusion of women and youth on the maritime mainstream. Secondly, it also assists government's response to identify weaknesses in countries' risk management capability, particularly in sea rescue and oil pollution control. South Africa is the maritime nation and is also a member state of the International Maritime Organization. We have international obligations as a country to discharge on behalf of the IMO. Among other responsibilities is to make sure that we provide search and rescue and pollution prevention and controls. South African Maritime Safety Authority has conducted the audit of their capability to discharge this international obligation. They came back and then informed us, Deputy Minister, that they require 10 billion rand to make sure that South Africa is capacitated and also it's able to discharge its international obligations. We are hoping to use this Maritime Development Fund to capacitate South Africa. Implementation of Operation Pakistan Food Plan was monitored in 21-20 financial year, and Department of Transport is entrusted to deliver on 18 initiatives under marine transport and manufacturing, which are categorized in port infrastructure, skills and development, as well as economic growth. Under economic growth, we are supposed to increase the ship registry of this country to make sure that we attract vessels to be registered so that we can be able to take advantage of the registered vessels. By so doing, we'll be able to increase the intake of South Africans to be able to work and also get the training beds so that they can be able to be competitive, and also we can export that skill to the rest of the world. In line with maritime safety, the following were reported for 2021 financial year. Safety incident rate are sitting at 4.74, and our target is 10%. So we seem to be doing very well. So is fatality rate of 0.63. Pollution rate, however, The target is 2%. We are sitting nicely at 0.37, was also recorded for this reported financial year. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll go to the challenges and interventions for the post-regulator of South Africa. The budgetary constraints to expand mandate of the regulator. They need to strengthen the regulator through enabling a new self-funding model that reduces reliance on the fiscus in line with the ERT bill. Capacity issues affecting the ability of the regulator to expand on its mandate delivery. Currently, they are sitting on the organogram from 27. They intend to move to 60 positions and waiting for the Department of Transport for approval. Revised structures undergoing approval processes. SAMSA, I think I've spoken about the challenges, inequity funding model, decline in SAMSA levies revenue as a result of the impact of COVID-19, significant decrease in the shipping volumes, late approval of the tariff increase which resulted in an opportunity loss in revenue. And we intend to improve turnaround time for approval processes and concurrency of ministers of both Department of Transport as well as Minister of Finance. I will get into the second part of our presentation, contribution to the economic recovery of reconstruction and recovery of the transport sector. Rolling stock fleet renewal program under infrastructure investment and delivery. Total number of train sets delivered from the train manufacturing plant in Niger, in Ekurhuleni, is sitting at 61 since inception of this program. There is additional 18 train sets were imported from Brazil factory, bringing the total number of new train sets to 79. And then this was done also to make sure that we are able to train South Africans that were going to be working at the train manufacturing plant. Currently, we are a self-sustainable, self-sufficient country when it comes to the building of trains. Trains will be then deployed to priority corridors, Mamelodi, Mabopane, eThekwini, and Cape Town. To that end, 878 jobs were reported in the 2021 financial year. An additional 909 jobs were reported as at the end of the second quarter of 21-22 financial year. Minimal progress under rail modernization, prioritizing and refurbishment of Mabopane line, Tshwane, and central lines, and I've mentioned this form part and parcel of the minister's performance agreement with the president. Minimal progress was recorded in the program for 2020-21 financial year due to onset of COVID. However, 1,691 jobs were reported through the program in the first 3 quarters of the financial year. Focus will then be placed on Central Line in the Western Cape and Mabopane Pretoria Line in Gauteng as at the end of September 2021. Following progress was reported. However, Mabopane Pretoria corridor was closed for 90 days from the 15th of August 2021 for maintenance and upgrade, and also to wall off railway infrastructure. To date, signaling, overhead traction equipment, and electrical substations have been completed. Finalization of the work of the stations for phase 1 operations is underway. Testing of rolling stock and commissioning will resume on the 29th of November, 2021. If I count correctly, that should be on Monday. Regarding the Central Line in the Cape Town, consultation have been initiated with the City of Cape Town and Western Cape government to seek a consolidated approach in the addressing illegal occupations of railway reserves in Ulanga. Order granted by the High Court, Cape Town, to remove all illegal settlements of the Central Line, signing off the implementation protocols, which I spoke about earlier on, by Department of Transport is complete. And other sector department will finalize their process within the 3rd quarter. Expansion, maintenance, and refurbishment of national roads, SANRAL CAPEX program. Sunrally's networks under routine increase to 22,262 kilometers, which incorporates latest proclamations and survey data. To address the negative impact of COVID-19 on Sunral, the following remedial actions were developed. New standard operating procedures were developed and incorporating into Sunral procurement process to enable service delivery under COVID-19 restrictions. Sunral operating model review outcomes will be implemented to address human capacity and operational challenges. Project liaison committee will be established to each project involving all relevant stakeholders. Sunral's 14-point plan will indeed be rolled out to ensure open and transparent participation in the stipulated subcontracting opportunities for all projects across the network. Ladies and gentlemen, the protection of passenger and freight rail infrastructure from vandalism, arson, and other crimes is very important. To that end, concerted approach adopted to address security and asset protection at PRASA. PRASA integrated security plan informed by intelligence-driven operation, regulatory environment, and PRASA security response was developed. Through this plan, PRASA will have a fully fledged in-house security within 3 MTEF periods to be achieved through a phased-in approach. To date, a total of 3,072 appointments were realized against the target of 3,100 in the initial phase of this plan. Empowerment of youth and persons with disabilities. This includes PRASA, AXA, and Sunral, were created through capital expenditure program. Beneficiaries of job created through sector infrastructure program will have a bias towards vulnerable groups. Ladies and gentlemen, I will just go through the human resource management and interventions. This specifically talks to the board's vacancies and accounting officers' vacancies of the Department of Transport entities. DOT went out and advertised for to increase our database of the relevant set of skills, so that as the members of the boards resign, we can be able to go to our database and look at the requisite skills and the relevant set of skills and be able to fill up those vacancies. Instead of each and every time a member resigns, we need to go out and advertise. We just decided to have a database that will be used as and when it's necessary. The purpose of this is to capacitate entities on corporate governance and strengthen the corporate governance as it was highlighted by Auditor General. Also assist to improve the consequence management with regards to the activities of the entities. These are the vacancies, ladies and gentlemen. PRASA is sitting with 2 vacancies on the board level, and RSI is 1. CEO is vacant. Submission for cabinet approval for appointment of the CEO is in a process under RSI. Sunral board term has lapsed. Shortlisting process is complete for the CEO. Not shortlisting, sorry, the recruitment process of the CEO on Sunral has commenced. The position has been advertised. CPRTA, all vacancies are for the CEO. The term of the CEO ended on the 31st of June. The new board has to start the recruitment of a replacement of the CPRT CEO. RTMC, 6 members term extended until vacancies are filled. Board currently capacitated with 9 members. Artia, there are no vacancies. Term of the CEO lapse on the 30th of September. Board to start recruitment process. We have deployed one of our own to go and assist at Artia as we speak. RAF, there are 3 vacancies candidates to be sourced from the database that I've spoken about to replace those 3 vacancies. And we've got a CEO up until 2025. AXA, there are no vacancies. Board is fully capacitated. Term of the current board lapse in August and extended till the new board is appointed. Shortlisting has been completed. SACA, we've got only one vacancy for the board. And ATNS, the submission for cabinet approval for the appointment of CEO has been generated. SAMSA, board is fully capacitated. We haven't had a CEO, permanent CEO since 2015, if I'm not mistaken. But the subcommittee of the board of SAMSA said 2 weeks ago to do interviews for the new CEO, and I'm hoping that process will be finalized early next year, 2022. Post regulator, we've got 2 vacancies, and we are waiting to tap in from this database so that we can be able to replace those 2 vacancies. And the CEO the CEO's tenure is up to 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, the minister spoke about considerations for rationalization of the transport mandate, possible amalgamation of related entities, so that we can reach. Currently, we are sitting with 12 entities. If we were to include the DLCA, there are 13 entities. We are looking at how we can amalgamate and rationalize the entities so that we've got a reduced number of entities within the department. It assists in terms of management and control. The streamlining mandate of road traffic agencies assess and resolve overlapping functional mandates of RTMC, CBRTA, RTIA, DLCA, and address inherent inefficiencies through. We do this by reviewing existing legislations, NRTA and other road traffic legislations, and develop a new legislation to support this rationalization. Due diligence conducted and business case was developed to this end. Draft General Laws Amendment Bill developed and consultation conducted on the draft bill. Engagement, however, are still on with National Treasury regarding the probable integration of the DLCA, RTMC, and RTIA into one single agency. Through promulgations of the Economic Regulation of Transport, ERT in short, Act, and establishment of the STAIR, economic regulation activity of the sector will be consolidated within a single framework and policy. This will, amongst other, promote efficiency, reliability, and performance in the management and operation of transport facilities and services, and further promote appropriate investment in this sector. Entities that will be impacted by the establishment of the STAIR is Post Regulator, CPRTA, RSR, NPTR, International Air Licensing Council, and Air Service License Council. These are all Department of Transport economic regulators as we speak. I will then call upon my CFO, Mr. Matlala, to come and give us the state of affairs on the financial sustainability of these entities. Thank you.
All right, let me, at this time, quickly acknowledge that the Deputy Minister Chikunga is here with us, and welcome, ma'am, as well as the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Transport, Mr. Msebenzi Zwane. Welcome. And the CEOs, I'll be going through your names just after this short presentation.
Greetings to the Honorable Minister and Honorable Deputy Minister, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, and members of the board, CEOs, colleagues. I think all protocol observed. They've already hinted to me that I must make it quickly. So it's just a very snapshot of the performance of the entities at the end of the first 6 months of the year. As you can see on the slide, I'm not gonna go through each and every figure there, but the next slide is where we're looking at the financial viability of our entities, where we're looking at the financial ratios, which will tell us whether in the short term, the entities are able to pay their short-term debt, or if you look at the solvency rate, it will tell us whether these entities will be able to pay their long-term debts. So we just look at that snapshot, and just to share with the members that if the rate is high, it means that there is no risk in that particular entity. But if the rate you see there is low, then you know that entity has got some challenges in terms of meeting its own obligation. You can see there with PRASA that there is a challenge. I'm not gonna give a lot of explanation. RSR, we can see we are still comfortable. Then these are your road agencies. You can see their performance, their revenue, and their expenditure for the first 6 months of the year. And then if quickly proceed to where we assess the financial viability of these particular entities, you can see that, if I look at Sanral, you can see that in the type of business they are, there is a challenge of financial viability there, as well as RAF. We can say with CRBTA, we are comfortable, and with RTMC, I can say we are happy the way they are sitting at that rate of 12.34. Then Artea, I think also we are still comfortable where they are sitting, that they are able to meet their short-term and long-term obligations. Then I quickly go to the civil aviation, where you can see their performance for the first 6 months, all of them with the performance, where you can see some of them have some losses in the first 6 months. Then I quickly proceed to the civil aviation entities, where we also review their financial viability. Then you can see that with AXA, the viability is on a risky situation. And we can say with ATNS, as you can see, the ratio there is very good, and we are comfortable where they are sitting, that they'll be able to meet their short-term obligation. Similarly, with SACA, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that their risky and debt ratios are on a comfortable situation. Then if we go to maritime, I'm not gonna go through each line item. We can see their performance for the first 6 months of this financial year, and then I will proceed to the analysis where we check their financial viability. You can see that there's a SAMSA, there is a risk. Financiers won't be happy to find such an organization, whereas if we look at PRSA, you can see that we are sitting at a very good rate, that they'll be able to meet all their financial obligations in the short and in the long term. This one, I think the minister and the acting DG touch a bit on the issues of our entities. You can see how all of them have performed. We have seen those who have received clean audit reports, about 5 of them, and a lot of our entities received unqualified audit reports, and then we're still waiting for other 3 audits which are still in progress. And that is my story for this today. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. So we more or less have the overview of the performance of the Department of Transport as well as the entities that are managed within the ministry, the operational and the financial performances thereof. And this is an opportunity for you as partners and stakeholders to ask questions. So we gave you the forms. I hope you are ready with your forms. Who's ready? Who wants to go first? Let me acknowledge the presence here of the CEO, Mepopi Koza of SACA, Mr. Dumisani Sangweni of ATNS, Mempumi Mpofu of AXA, Ms. Letro Nolo PC from Sanral, CBRTA, Mr. Loazim Boy, RTIA, Mr. Ms. Dalian Mabula, RAF, Mr. Collins Letsualo, PRSA, Mr. Joey Mlaudzi, SAMSA, Ms. Tsepiso Joanna Mashilwani, Tawana Mashilwani, I beg your pardon, PRASA, Mr. David Mpilo, RSR, Mr. Mose Salaledi. But who wants to go first? As I said, this is your opportunity to pose questions to us. Okay. Are we able to get a roaming mic? Or are you, okay, there's a microphone to the extreme right there, right? If you can just walk up to the microphone, identify your organization, your name, and then there's a microphone there. I beg your pardon? There's no microphone there? And please, let's keep the questions very short because we are pressed for time. So the stakeholders will allow you about 15 minutes, not to ask a question, but we'll take questions and responses for 15 minutes and then allow the media a couple of questions. So my request is, let's keep the question crisp and short, to the point. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Bruce. I'm from the Board of Airline Representatives of South Africa, also known as BASA. I've just got a very quick question. Please could you confirm that the Air Licensing Council and the Air Services Licensing Council will now merge and fall under the STIR regulating system? Thank you.
This question is being posed to, sorry?
That is posed to aviation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Misela Ntapo. I represent the African Rail Industry Association. I'm looking at 2 entities, so I'm going to ignore your advice, Mr.
Yeah, sorry, can
Program
you raise,
director.
sorry ma'am, can you raise your voice a little bit?
Okay, I think it's a system that perhaps is a little bit challenged. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. and-
Okay.
Yeah?
My first question, rather around policy, particularly to the department, with regards to the president's or rather the executive, the national, making a declaration as part of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan on third-party access. We believe that this could relieve, having a diversified client base outside BRAS and Transnet could relieve some of the pressures in terms of procurement that is expected from both entities. Question is, how can we fast-track third-party access implementation? And further to that, it's on the RSR part. As an organization and industry body, we wish to congratulate the Railway Safety Regulator on the work that they have done, in particular under the leadership of Tshepo Kgari. And Tshepo Kgari is quite important because this industry is dominated by male, and seeing a black female thriving in this space, it's great. And Muso Silaledi, which is reflected obviously there in the report. Now my question is that the RSR has been without a permanent CEO for quite a while. When can we expect an appointment? With dates, please. And then on BRASA and RSR, these two entities have the same problem of having a merry-go-round CEO. BRASA for the past 6 years has had 10 CEOs, excluding the current one that is on precautionary suspension, whatever that is. And how does the shareholder hold boards accountable? How can we, as the rail industry, hold the boards accountable? Because some of the bloodbath that we are seeing in this sector are a result of entities that are without a leadership that has a best interest of this country.
Sure.
We have seen, can I come, hold on? We have seen a number of liquidations. Our brothers and sisters have become unemployed. Companies being liquidated, in particular, black-owned companies. Now, this cannot go on like this. We need to have a stable leadership. We need to make sure that this country works. We can't have a country work with a leadership that does not act in the best interest of the country. Thank you.
Good day, everybody, colleagues. Questions posed, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. The questions are for the Minister, and he may redirect maybe to the DG. Minister Basil Govender, representing broadly the bus and coach industry, both local and cross-border. I've been asked to pose the following issues for your consideration and feedback. Regarding cross-border transport, there is currently a bilateral agreement, and we are both the signatories of the SADC protocol. But it seems to be that there's a bias against local operators and the local industry, which is reeling currently.
Can you raise your voice, or can we raise the volume?
Under the current protocols that exist, especially the local operators moving out of South Africa. So the industry will require you to give some thought and feedback on that process. And for the broader public transport bus and coach sector, the public transport operating grant, or the PTOG, has been reduced for the financial year in 22-23. This will undoubtedly have an impact on services, and there is a prospect of rationalization, which will further impact service delivery to the public at large. There's a call from the industry for the Minister to facilitate discussions between yourselves, Transport and National Treasury, so that this may be corrected or engaged upon before the budget in February 22. And then lastly, Minister, thank you. With regards, it's great to see the good governance and unqualified audits coming through. But the industry is facing a particular challenge with the National Public Transport Regulator. And if I may be bold enough to say, specifically the board and its responsiveness and reaction to issues from the industry. This drills specifically into the tour charter sector. We know the country's been battered by COVID-19, but the tour charter and tourism sector has taken a serious beating. We urge the Minister to please facilitate again a joint stakeholder session with tourism, transport and home affairs in the different ministries. And this will allow us to get a clear picture as to where mandates lie rather than being pushed between departments and government tiers. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's pause right now and get responses to the questions that we have taken so far. Who do you think should go first, Dr. Madia? Or Minister, you'd like to start with the last question first? Or?
Thanks, thanks, Program Director, and thanks for the questions. I've got DDGs responsible for modes as well as the CEOs of the entities. I think when it comes to, I will ask aviation to respond, the amalgamations of the aviation entities into STE to confirm that. There's also the question of the cross-border bilaterals matter. I'll request the acting CEO to respond to that question. The reduction of PRGs, Babu Shabis, I think you should take that question. But on the issue of the rail safety regulator, I think on my presentation, ma'am, we indicated that the submission for the appointment of the CEO has been developed and then is routed to the cabinet for approval. And it becomes a bit of a challenge as administrators once the administrative part of that process has been finalized by us, then we rely on the availability of the slots within the cabinet to finalize that process. But the recruitment process, I can assure you, has been finalized. Secondly, I agree with the importance of that party access with rail. And I spent some time articulating the benefits that comes with that initiative. As to how can we fast track, we are finalizing the framework, the PSP framework as a department. It was submitted to my office. There were a number of issues that I wanted to discuss with the responsible branch, which is rail, on this matter. Once we are aligned, then we'll proceed with the finalization of that PSP framework so that we can be able to start to give a framework of how to access the rail infrastructure. Over and above that, the posture of our policy when it comes to rail is encouraging that we develop infrastructure-led agency which will be responsible for maintenance, developing of the rail infrastructure in South Africa, and then introduce other players within that framework and space. So I think there was a question of how do we hold our boards accountable as a department. I must say that each and every board of our entities signed the shareholder compact with the minister, articulating exactly what is expected, and also that must be in line with the strategic objectives of the sixth administration. We intend to make sure that we periodically review the performance of our boards to make sure that they are held accountable on the work that they're supposed to be doing. If Minister allows, I will ask my colleagues at the CEO level as well as the DDGs to respond on other questions that have been asked. Thank you. Babu Shabis, the question was the reduction and implications of these grants to the provincial government. What are the impact as they've been reduced moving forward? And I request the cross-border agency to take the question of the bilaterals. Acting CEO. And then Ubabu Ntenza, when it comes to the STE, as the custodian of the STE, if you can take us through and confirm how many entities within the aviation that will be amalgamated into the STE. Thanks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, Deputy Minister and the leadership at the front desk, at the top office. DG, I think the question, although he was too soft, I thought he was talking about the bus subsidies that had to be, where he asking the minister to engage with the national minister of Treasury to look into the extending the subsidies on the PTOG. I thought that is what he was saying. The gentleman who was too soft, we couldn't hear him very well. I would therefore request that if that is an assertion of this very same question, I would request that we have my colleague Kibi Manana to assist us with that under the PTOG, under the bus subsidies. I thought that was the question insofar as that is concerned. It was not necessarily on the PRMG, the Provincial Road Maintenance Grant, otherwise I would have responded. If I can just, with request from you, DG, ask, yes. Yeah, he says yes, it was exactly that. It was on the PTOG issues and the bus subsidies and the expansion of that, because he's concerned about the reduction of that. I would request that maybe my colleague Kibi Manana addresses that efficiently. I know she can do that very well than me. Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much, Loazim Poi, Acting CEO of Cross Border Road Transport Agency. Greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, the Chair of the Portfolio Committee, and everybody in the House. Basil, the question is an important question. I think the bilateral agreements are in place to regulate the movement of passengers between our countries and our neighboring countries, and they are managed on a quota basis. So we agree with the different countries on the number of people that must be transported from the different countries to the various destinations. They are managed strictly, and there is no way they favor any of the countries in the region. So there are forums on a yearly basis, the JCs, through which these bilateral agreements are managed, and through which through these forums we are able also to assess where the numbers are and how the numbers can be further distributed if needs be. Where the current challenge is in the Zimbabwe route. The Zimbabwean government, as we all know, closed the border to all passenger operations. And the only buses that are operating in that environment are the Zimbabwean buses. And what the government has said to us is that they are repatriating passengers from South Africa back to Zimbabwe. So there are no passenger operations permitted in that route, both buses and taxis. And it remains a challenge. We have engaged with the Zimbabwean government. Our board has also gone to Zimbabwe to engage with the government of Zimbabwe. That situation remains unresolved. So that situation, we do understand, it remains a major challenge, because in that route, it's only the Zimbabwean buses that are operating. But generally in other routes, we don't have major problems. All these things are governed through the bilateral agreements, and we seem not to have major problems there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we get Mr. Ntenza on the question of the aviation being amalgamated on the STE? How many entities within aviation?
Good afternoon, Minister, DM, and all colleagues. For the amalgamation of entities into STAIR, we will not do it all at once. We will do it in steps, starting with those that are most ready and very close to the model that you are adopting, including those in aviation later. But at the beginning, the closest that we have, will be the earliest to take on, will be from the ports regulator model. So we'll go in stages one by one and reach the time when we take all of them right at the end. That is as much as I can say at the moment, because the bill is still under consideration at PCOT, but that is the plan with the economic regulator bill, which is also called the STAIR bill. Thank you.
All right, I think we more or less have answered your questions, and the other question the minister will refer to it when he makes his closing remarks. But in the meantime, let me hear not only your questions, but comments as well, because we've got about 15 minutes to go before.
Tim, yeah, let me just say something briefly. Thank you, colleagues. I think we'll answer your questions. You are not media. You come from different, you play your role in different entities. I've given you the report. The acting DG gave you the report. The deputy minister welcomed you. And then the CFO gave you the numbers. Now, I want to hear you. You have listened to me. Q&A is for the media. So we can't gather in Sandton with captains of industry and they don't tell the minister nothing. You need to tell me your frustration. Mesela, I don't know or who was speaking there. I liked what she was doing because she was giving me comments and solutions. What must actually happen. At the end, we can respond. Where you've got questions, ask, it's fine. The acting DG, myself, the DM, we can respond to your questions. And if entities that are here want to clarify, they can do that. So I don't intend to leave here and say, I came, I addressed people, I didn't hear them. And next year I call you again. It becomes a PR. It doesn't become a tool of intervention. Do you agree with the things I'm saying? Some of you are experts in rail, in maritime, in road, and so on and so on. You are engineers. What are you saying? In your area, what are the bottlenecks? So that these CEOs and the board can hear you. How we are going to get out of some of the problems we are facing. What is your suggestion? That is really the objective. I know we are pressed for time, but I've told the chair that I've got time for this because this is my job. I'm employed for this. Unless if I become Minister of Sports. But I'm in transport now. I need to hear you. I'm sure the DM is also interested. And we also have the chair of the portfolio committee here. He won't respond. He's my critic. He's looking at my work and deal with me. So when we are gathered like this, where you are, how are we going, what reservations you've got, for instance? And how are you going to assist us? So just briefly, Bratim, I think we need to give colleagues who have taken time off to come here an opportunity really to participate. If you don't have views and all of that, it's still fine. It's okay. It means you understood what I said and what we're going to do. I don't know, this speech will be circulated and the reports are there, they are public in terms of the annual reports and all of that, and I think you're capable of reading those on your own, but they've been summarized here and so on. So that is really what I'm interested in and the objective of this interaction. Otherwise, we will live here and without listening to each other. We are talking about the social pact, business, labor, and government. In relation to transport and our entities, what are the issues that you are facing that you would like to bring to my attention? I had somebody there faint, I couldn't hear properly about NPTR, but I already know what are the challenges there, and I'll tell you what we're doing. But I want to hear you. Thank you, Chair.
Well, the main role player has spoken, so you heard it from the minister himself. He wants to hear your views besides your questions. Is the department on the right path? Are the agencies on the right path? Are the issues, challenges that you're coming across? Have you got ideas on how those can be resolved? You go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Minister. My name is Tebo Honare, under CBRTA Tourism Forum. The challenge, as Minister has just alluded now, is the NPTR. NPTR has caused a rift between the operators and the traffic. The board, since the minister announced that he's busy coming to appoint the board, and now allocation of operating licenses to be granted, it's a challenge whereby this has caused illegal operators in the country. And everywhere you go now, they start to talk about the NPTR. Can minister resolve the NPTR as soon as possible? Temporarily, we were suggesting that let CBRTA take over the work of NPTR, because of through them, under the issuing of cross-border permits, CBRTA has been the perfect agency, entity there. No fusses about it, and for now, at least fast-tracking the issue of appointing the board, let CBRTA take over. Thank you, Minister. And the last one is law enforcers. How can you arrange with them to know that there are no permits that are being granted? Operators are buying cars every day and they cannot be granted permits, and they need to be operational. So I will hear from you, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear the next speaker.
Good afternoon, Minister. My name is Paul Soto from United Commuters Voice. Minister, in terms of the Cape Town Straight Line, I think the issue of land encroachment is not only in Cape Town. My question is, there is no act that is governing the issue of land encroachment, because even in Gauteng, if we can check in Booysens, we've got the issue of land encroachment. So if that act is there, why can't it be enforced? I would also suggest that the Department of Housing, before they sign off a new project that is closer to railway line, they need to check with the Department of Transport, because we are still having new projects that are coming closer to railway line. We will have the very same issue that it's emanating in a straight line in Cape Town. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear from you over there. sir.
Okay. Greetings, colleagues, and greetings to the Minister, Pratim. We recognize you. My name is Siviwe Mdunyela.
Let's get your microphone working. That side, is the microphone on?
Okay.
Yeah.
I did send my greetings. We recognize you, Minister. Greetings to all of the senior leadership and also my colleagues. My name is Siviwe Mdunyela. I'm here in capacity as shareholder representative on behalf of the
We're
Public
battling to
Investment
hear. If we can
Corporation,
raise the volume, please.
which
Either you
is,
speak up a little bit or...
a shareholder in AXA. So the question is aviation related. AXA is a regulated entity which makes revenue based on tariffs. Now, in terms of Section 12E of the AXA Act, it indicates that the regulatory committee ought to ensure that AXA is able to finance its obligation and that it is able to generate what is called a commercial return on behalf of its shareholders. So if the colleagues from the regulatory committee can take us into their confidence in terms of how they're actually ensuring that this aspect of ensuring that AXA is able to finance its obligation and that it makes what is called an adequate return, how are they able to do that going forth? Because I think on the latter it's been quite on the negative. But if they can just take us into their confidence on how they will ensure that the shareholders in AXA are able to generate an adequate return. Thank you. Minister knows the question. It's quite a burning one, but every time we have to raise it, and we're happy because of the platform that it is actually broader and it can encourage discussion.
Thank you. Let's hear from the next speaker. You go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Henk Snyman. I'm from the AIDC, the Automotive Industrial Development Center. There is a significant developments taking place in the northern corridor here, where within 2 years there will be more than 1,000 vehicles, mostly pickup trucks, being made per day. Of those 1,000 vehicles a day, if they each 5 meters long, that means it's more than 5 kilometers of new vehicles that has to be transported somewhere to the coast, because between 70 and 80% of them are going to be exported. So in terms of the questions to the rails, and to a lesser extent to the roads departments, is that there is a significant challenge coming up, because the vehicles being made here is up to 2 to 3% of South Africa's GDP. So what I'm saying is there's a tsunami coming. I know maybe you know about it, but it's a significant portion of the GDP. So that's more a statement. And the question is, are we ready for that? Thank you very much for this opportunity.
I think let's pause for a while and are we ready to respond, Acting DG?
Minister? Okay.
Go ahead, sir. We'll take a statement from here, 2 from here, and then last 2 from that side. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Minister, and all the honorable members in the House and everyone. My name is Jan Shongwe. I'm from the Truckers Association of South Africa, briefly called TASA. During the COVID challenges, as the Minister has alluded in his opening statement, we in the trucking industry, we suffered a lot, such that as we are going through the borders, and the congestion was so much that resulted us in not making business at all. And then it further went on to an extent that most of our members, they were in a position of losing their trucks because the banks wanted their installment as per the agreement. Now, most of our members as well has tried to apply for the COVID relief fund, whereas the bank, it was on their onus whether to approve it or not. Most of them couldn't get those relief fund. We are sitting in a situation that most of our truckers' businesses are dying. Some of them has already closed doors. The question is there any entity that is available that can assist to fund or to help those small truckers to get to business again? If there is such entity, which one is that? We love to be engaged into that platform. Lastly, we'll prefer, to have the trucking industry also to be regulated, like all the other transport sectors. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The name is Phil Hendricks. I'm from the South African Road Federation. Minister, thank you very much for the opportunity and for this initiative. The transparency of the presentations has been fantastic. And I must say, the sector seems to be making really good progress on the maintenance of our national and our provincial road network. But as a country, we seem to be losing the battle when it comes to local level. The Road Federation has been on radio many times in the past couple of months. And Joe Soap, citizen out there, it's about the potholes. It's about the potholes. It's about bands of citizens coming together and actually fixing potholes themselves, which is a risk, a legal risk to our road authorities. Okay? So I'm a bit disappointed that, where's the National Department Initiative on the Rural Road Management System grant? If there's one thing, Minister, that I would increase and look at very carefully, it's that grant, because we can make a significant difference at the local level. And the Road Federation is very happy to assist on that score. So it's something, please, that, whenever we go on radio, it's about the pothole, and I think we can make a huge difference. And we have defended the department because it is a fantastic initiative, but I don't think enough's been done, and it hasn't been mentioned yet today. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me go to this side, take the two comments from yourselves, and then the final two, as I promised, from this side. Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Steve Harris, General Secretary, United National Transport Union. Thank you for the Minister to avail himself. Minister, first of all, on the issue of PRAZA's not being able to spend its capex, I think there should be an urgent intervention between Treasury as well. And it doesn't just affect PRAZA, it affects Transnet as well. And that is the long drawn out process for them to be able to procure services. And it affects the ability of these entities to be able to react quickly and to be able to purchase certain materials and certain equipment. The second issue is, Chair, we've raised this with you previously, Minister, is it's mind-boggling to understand why the Rail Safety Regulator reports to yourself within the same ambit of Passenger Rail South Africa. Because what we found is that the Rail Safety Regulator is quite scary to issue a non-compliance or to stop the services if PRAZA is not complying and have not complied to the rules and regulations. The third issue, Chair, Minister, is the issue of vandalism. We have raised this on many occasions, and the state is the 100% owner of PRAZA. And we believe that for the short term, that the South African Defence Force should be called in to assist to curb the vandalism so that we can long-term bring in other security people. But for short term, I think to be able to get the service running for the poorest of the poor, I think we should be able to bring in the South African Defence Force. The last one, Minister, you might want to kick me for a 6. However, I've got to raise this, and that is, we signed a wage agreement within PRASA, which is a 3-year agreement. And the April payment has not happened to date. And the excuses we get all the time is that we're waiting for either your department or for the Treasury to find funds to pay for that. We've also got employees that have been working overtime since March last year, which haven't been remunerated. And that's unacceptable for us. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Good afternoon to you. My name is Jack Mazbugo. I'm a South African Transport and Allied Workers Union. Some of the questions we are in solidarity with my colleagues, Minister, with regard to PRASA. But we want to raise the following question to you. Firstly, we want to acknowledge the presentation. We think it's an honest and transparent presentation that talks to the challenges that the transport industry is confronted with. The concern that we have, Minister, is that in the passenger sector, the government is playing a critical role in subsidizing that particular sector. But we have the similar sector that is faring the poor of the poorest, the working class, which is a taxi industry. That sector is not being assisted. We think, Minister, that needs an urgent intervention. It needs to be looked at. Taxi industry is one of the biggest industry that can generate and stimulate our economy going forward if it can be assisted. The second issue, Minister, is that we request both board of PRASA and both board of Transnet, of course, will be there as the recognized union to monitor the process. The long-standing dispute between the two entities, it does not do justice to PRASA. And as a result, PRASA is unable to make a reasonable profit that is expected. When it comes to Transnet, Minister, we know that there is a policy proposition that has been taken around the involvement of the private sector within a Transnet, in particular in ports. But there are no guiding policies as to what will be the role of the private sector. We think that needs to be looked at. Lastly, Minister, in our roads, I'm sure you've been seeing, since from 2018, there has been a number of road blockages. By truck drivers, we are complaining about the employment of our fellow brothers and sisters without a proper documentation. In our view, that affects our economy negatively. And we think that the SADC agreement that we have need to be reviewed. We welcome the policy that we have put in place that regulates the licenses. I think it's a good policy, Minister. We applaud you for doing that. But we need also to review our SADC agreement that we think will regulate the employment of I don't want to call them a foreign, I'm calling them brothers and sisters from another country, particularly those that don't have necessary requirements to work in South Africa. Maritime sector, Minister, we think this is one of the sectors that is not transformed. We strongly believe that your department should play a critical role in transforming this sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the last two questions this side, or comments?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Minister. My name is Aaron Munetsi. I'm the CEO of the Airlines Association of Southern Africa. The question, actually the comment that was made earlier on with regards to the International Air Servicing Council is a big concern to us, Minister. The issue is we are actually scoring an own goal in South Africa by delaying the appointment of the council. Because what it does, Minister, is that our airlines that would like to start operating to countries outside South Africa, their applications are not attended to since April this year. Conversely, Honorable Minister, airlines from other countries that want to operate into our country, their applications are attended to immediately and they get us approved and they start operating. In a sense, what we are doing is we are giving those countries our jobs and we are giving them a part of our economy at our own expense. We would like to, we have seen with a lot of excitement the names that have been given of the applicants. We appeal to you, Minister, that if this appointment can be made quicker, it will help us as South Africa because our aviation industry is being decimated by this. The second thing, Honorable Minister, is we understand the need for protocols to prevent the spread of COVID. And we appreciate all the protocols that have been put in place. However, Honorable Minister, because we are still maintaining curfew, in our domestic sector, travel between, for example, Johannesburg and Cape Town is now limited to a specific time, and our operators cannot operate freely in accordance with the demand from our customers. We appreciate the need for controls, Honorable Minister, but we are saying, since we have gone this far at level 1, is it not possible for us to try and find a way of accommodating later flights to enable travel between and within our country? The third element we want to bring to your attention, Honorable Minister, is we understand the need for sustainability in terms of the green movement. We do not want to continue to pollute. However, the imposition of carbon tax on the operations of aviation are actually an added tax to us as operators and to the customers as well. There is already an international movement in terms of the International Civil Aviation Organization, which has come with a protocol called the COSIA, which South Africa is a signatory to. We appreciate that, Minister, we support this. However, we would like you to review the imposition of a carbon tax on airline operators because it is adding costs to travel by air and thereby limiting travel by air and making it an elite movement, which actually it is not. I thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Portia from Stanlib, and I just wanted to raise a concern, Minister, around the e-tolls. So I suppose you did mention that you will be dealing with them next year, but from an investor or from a lender's point of view, concern has been that, can you not hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Help me adjust this. Okay, can you hear me now?
Loud.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and of course the Minister. So Minister, what I was saying is my name is Portia Bushomane from Stanlib Asset Management, and I suppose my question is mainly, or concerns rather, is mainly with regards to GFAB or e-tolls. I mean, you have mentioned that you will be dealing with them next year, but the main concern from an investor's point of view is that this has been ongoing for years now without a solution, or rather what seems to be without political will to really deal with the situation. And this has, of course, led to concerns around liquidity of SANRAL. And I think the last thing we all want to see is another SOE facing what we've seen with the land bank. And concern, like I said, is not dealing with the GFAB situation, and rather, the transfers being moved between non-toll and toll. That seems to be very unsustainable for us, and would like clarity in terms of what is the plan going forward. How are you going to deal with GFAB? You mentioned that next year you will be talking about it, but what's so different this time around? What comfort should we get that you are actually going to address this next year, unlike what we've seen in the past years? My second question is also with regards to the board of SANRAL. Why is it that they were not appointed in time, and what are the timelines in terms of the appointment of a permanent board for SANRAL? And just, Minister, before I conclude, I think the last thing I wanted to mention around the e-tolls and why it's such a concern, I mean, recently we saw the article around the new development bank loan being declined, as well as the mega loan that SANRAL had actually been wanting to get in terms of funding. So just to indicate really why it's so important for us to understand what is the plan and why it has taken so long for the government to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final comment from you, sir.
Thanks, and good afternoon, Minister and everyone in the House. This is a follow-up question
I'm a bit frustrated to get the acknowledgement from the acting CEO of CBRTA to say the status of Zimbabwe monopolizing and dictating what is happening down here is not addressed. But fortunately today, because the principal is there, the minister is there. Minister, two things we need you to help us with. When we say we signed the bilateral and we also co-signatories at the SADC protocol, we are saying if we cannot go into Zimbabwe, as much as the answer from the agency says South African borders are open. Now, if you open South African borders, but you can only go to Messina or you're going to Groblersberg, you haven't crossed the border. So that means the open border is an interprovincial arrangement. The second one, Minister, is this. Maybe this intervention of yours will help even the law enforcement. We've got operations from Port Elizabeth, Cape Town, even out of Durban, of our Zim counterpart, who are only not transporting passengers, but they are using buses to tow trailers, which I might say it's damaging our road. We can't go into Zim, not even in a small car, because in Zim, there is this red tape like in England. So Minister, please help us as a principal with your colleague on the Zim side to say, we cannot talk cross-border or bilateral or SADC protocol when we are talking that interprovincial in South Africa and still say we've got the cross-border operation. It has destroyed every operations of South African operators, ex-South Africa. The northbound operation is destroyed because we can't go north, but they can come down and do business. And I don't understand if the repatriation ended in March 2020. Are we still doing repatriations in November 2021? Minister, please, your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You heard from the minister, he said you wanted to hear from the stakeholders and the partners. So I'm giving the minister the opportunity to broadly respond to the feedback that you got from the stakeholders rather than deal with the matters on a point-by-point basis, but there are those that obviously have been highlighted that you will emphasize on when you respond. Thank you.
I'll give the Deputy Minister to say something, and then the Acting DG, and then I will level up.
No, thank you very much, Minister. Let me also greet the board chairs, CEOs, stakeholders, and all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I think you did receive my apology for arriving late. Minister, maybe let me respond to a few questions. One was about RSR not being ready to reprimand our operator, PRASA, because it is reporting to the same department. Maybe just for that one to indicate that RSR is established in terms of the Act, and it has powers that are given to it by the Act itself. It is there to oversee and to promote safe railway operations through appropriate support, monitoring, and enforcement. It is expected to do this whether it is PRASA or Transnet or any other operator for that matter. It is expected to be very objective when it performs its duties. In terms of the reports that we receive from RSR, the indications are that they are able to raise issues with whether they pertain to PRASA or to Transnet, Freight Rail, or any other. We've not seen anything that might confirm that it is biased towards PRASA. However, we take what you are saying, we look into that. However, in as far as we are concerned, RSR is established in terms of the Act, and it is expected to perform its duties without fear nor favor whether it is PRASA or any other operator for that matter. On the other issue that you raised regarding maritime not transformed, I cannot agree more with you on that one. As a matter of fact, if you talk about the colonization of South Africa, you date it to no other sector but maritime. That's where it all started, as a matter of fact, in South Africa. And it is one sector that is intransigent when it comes to transformation. However, we are not sitting. We started by saying, is it possible that we can transform maritime without skills, without people that are skilled? And when we said, no, we cannot, because by itself, it is a technical, specialized area of transport. We then, as a department, working together with SAMSA, with TITA, said that we must then send people to study maritime. Hence, every year we send people to the World Maritime University to study maritime so that they can come back, particularly our people, they can come back from a point of knowledge, intervene, but also transform this. We also have agreed that even at secondary education level, there must be schools that are offering subjects on maritime so that it does not begin after matric, but these are introduced at a secondary level, secondary education level, and we think we're getting there. The comprehensive maritime transport policy, including the inland water strategy that we launched recently, but the policy itself, if you look at it and if we implement it as it is, it can actually assist us to transform the sector. But I must agree with the view and the sentiments that say it is one sector that would not want to transform, particularly because you have it operated nationally, but it is also operated internationally. Shipping companies that are there, the big five that you can talk about, at world level, they would not want anything else to disturb their operations. But we are saying, no, it can continue. We will do it. We've got the chapter on cabotage in our comprehensive maritime transport policy and many others. Like I'm saying, it's not going to take, words, but it's going to actually say we do it. The Operation Pakisa Oceans Economy, it's very clear. If you go to the 3-foot plan and you look at the projects that are there, if implemented, they can begin to transform that sector, but it is difficult, I must say, and we're getting there, and we're not going to live like that. Maybe just one last response I might want to respond to was an important question on how are we monitoring, the minister or the ministry monitoring holding the boards to account. And I think for me that's an important question because the boards represent the minister in those state-owned companies. And in the department, we have an oversight branch that is responsible, that wakes up in the morning and say, if we have done our work, it's because we've overseen the state-owned companies, let alone the performance reports, the expenditure reports that we receive, that each time they come, they are analyzed and letters written to boards, congratulating them where they are doing well, but also raising issues with the boards. But at any time and given moment, they can actually be invited to come and account if we think that things are falling apart. That we do. The annual general meetings that sit, we take them very seriously and we analyze the annual reports, and when we go to them, we raise these issues sharply with the state-owned companies, holding them to account. And where we think there is a need for us to intervene, we never hesitate to intervene. If it means retiring people, we don't hesitate to do that. So I think we are trying. We can do better, but I think we are trying. I think those are the few questions that, Minister, I would want to respond to, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. I think there are specific questions that requires the entities to respond to, but when it comes to the vandalism of the infrastructure and encroachment of communities around rail infrastructure, not only in the Western Cape, but in Johannesburg, particularly in the Poisons area. PRASA has adopted a strategy of the phased-in approach in terms of how they implement and roll out the revitalization of the rail infrastructure. I think when is the turn of the Poison, but I don't want to speak on their behalf, they will be able to deal with the issue of the encroachment. We do agree that the encroachment is not only the challenge that is being faced by the Western Cape, but it's throughout the country. And the danger of relocating communities, if they see that those communities that are taken out of this precinct of the rail infrastructure are provided with houses, we might see the influx of the communities building around so that they can be fast-tracked in terms of getting the housing. So it's one area that I hope PRASA will be able to flag as a risk. We take note of the issue of the human settlement in terms of how they do their master plan in as far as building the housings for South Africans, especially around the rail infrastructure. So we will note that as we engage with them through the implementation protocols that we have developed, we'll raise and flag those issues. The issue that I'm not sure if we can be able to resolve is the issue of the carbon taxes on aviation. South Africa is party to the Paris Agreement, that its primary objective is to reduce emissions. And all modes of transport must contribute towards that. And aviation is not an exception. In maritime, we need to use sulfur, to use marine fuel that is 0.05%. If you want to continue using the normal marine fuel to fuel these vessels, at least you must put in some equipment, some technologies, they call it scrappers, to make sure that they dilute the concentration of these emissions. Each and every mode of transport supposed to contribute. So that's why I'm not too sure, my honorable sir, how we can be able to exempt the aviation out of this responsibility. The Deputy Minister has spoken about the transformation in maritime sector, and I can confirm the Minister has signed the BE Council that is going to monitor the scorecards of all the transport modes in terms of the transformation. And maritime is part and parcel of that process. Not only that, we work through the post regulator of South Africa in terms of the oversight on how quickly the National Ports Authority, as one aspect in the maritime value chain, to make sure that they transform. And then we do all the annual reports and then engage with the National Ports Authority to make sure that we provide access to the port land for people that never had an opportunity before. I couldn't agree with you more, sir, on the vandalism of the rail infrastructure, and I think the integrated security strategy of PRASA talks to that as they put the billions and billions of rand on infrastructure development and modernization. They will make sure that there is a adequate infrastructure protection to make sure that we can be able to preserve our investments. The procurement constraint within rail, particularly with PRASA, I'll allow Mr. Makaipina, the DDG Rail, to comment on that, and the general comments that have been made when it comes to rail. Over to you, Mr. Makaipina. Over to you, Minister.
Yes, thank you. I give you power, you are deferring it. Decide hard, I'll take it. You must be clued up, acting DG. I give you power wena uyayithengisa nje. Nikezela ngayo makayipeya hey. Ndinike wena ipower mhlekazi. Ibambe mfondini xa ungafuniyo ndiyinike omnye umuntu. Thank you Acting DG and Deputy Minister. I think at the end we'll give the chairperson of the portfolio committee just to say a few words, if he can ready himself, to the stakeholders. This is the man who's holding the stick in Parliament. So at least he can say something, whatever you want to say. So these are the stakeholders of transport that we gave them a report about different entities. And I want this engagement to go beyond here. I'm starting a relationship with you and our ministry and the department. We need to continuously engage, and engagement means setting up bilateral meetings and engage with the minister. And I'm opening myself to you in that way because you are industry players. I can meet with you anytime, not for tenders. Let's talk about models and things that you want us to do. I'm ready for that. So I'm opening myself to you today because I think it is important that we come close. And that is the only way we are going to build the economy, transform the economy, and get close to understanding what the industry thinks about different sectors within the transport department. The entity that will immediately be affected by the promulgation of the economic regulation of transport is the ports regulator, and I did report that. And the other entities that exercise economic regulation will be incorporated into the new regulator in a phased manner. So to us, this is a game changer, Chair of the Portfolio Committee. This is a game changer and it's very important. Parliament is currently seized with the bill, and the manner in which this phased approach will apply in practice will be determined by the parliamentary process. So be at ease with that. We are attending to that particular matter. We are aware about the difficulties caused by the absence of the NPTR to issues of intra-provincial operating licenses, which are currently being handled by provinces. The issuing of cross-border permit is the responsibility of CBRTA. However, appeals on the decisions of the CBRTA and the provincial regulatory entities and the NPTR are very important. The National Public Transport Regulator appointment is underway. The complicating factor was the manner in which we appointed the NPTR as provided for in the law as it stands. This complication has been addressed in the National Land Transport Amendment Bill that was passed by Parliament. And the President, unfortunately, has referred the bill back to Parliament for a specific provision to be reviewed. We are finalizing the appointment in line with the current provision, as we cannot delay this matter any further. And indeed, when it comes to AXA, AXA has a commercial mandate and has been one of the best performing entities. The onset of COVID-19 pandemic has put AXA revenue streams under tremendous pressure. It's one of our best run entities, AXA. The board has reviewed its strategy to recover economically, as I briefed you earlier on. We are working on realizing a shift from road to rail as part of our manifesto decision by ensuring 10% of freight currently moved by road to be moved by rail by 2024. So 2024 is in 3 years. So by 2024, this should come to fruition. This will be reinforced by interventions that may include incentives and disincentives in various forms. We are also alive to the devastating impact of the COVID pandemic to the transport sector. This includes the trucking industry. The Department of Trade and Industry and the Competition and the Department of Small Businesses have conceptualized various programs to assist businesses cushion the economic impact of the pandemic. But we know that most of these businesses have not come forward to get this money because of the strict regulations that go with declarations you've got to make in order to access the relief fund. And this is what we've been dealing with ourselves in terms of taxes, because Treasury says to us, we're not giving taxes money without them formalizing. But we said relief money is a voluntary act of government to assist the vulnerable. And we've been back and forth, and that is why that matter was delayed. But you will know also about the court decision that affected the tourism factor and the Minister of Tourism. And we've been looking at those issues. And that is why our disbursement of the taxi industry relief has actually been delayed, partly. We welcome the commitment by the Road Federation to work with government in addressing the pothole challenge, which is prevalent in the provincial and municipal roads. I get attacked all the time about potholes in Johannesburg, in Mafikeng. But I'm not a mayor. And these mayors, they don't deal with potholes. These mayors we just elected now, I hope they deal with potholes. So municipal manager and all of that, they need to deal with that. We had a fantastic project here in Johannesburg with the private sector, Liberty and all others, which we launched with Mayor Mpomwerani. You report a pothole, they get there, they close it. And then they developed an app for the closing of potholes. So I hope Mpo, the new Mpo, will continue with that particular project. We have rolled out, as you know, the Sihamba Sonke program to assist provinces in maintaining the secondary road network. The social compact we have consistently referred to means we must work together to bring to bear collective capacity. And this project is fantastic. If you look at what we have done in Mpumalanga, in the Free State, in Putadichaba, creating jobs, because this is a stimulus package project of the president that we're implementing in all other provinces. So it's really fantastic. I've also alluded to the challenge of PRASA ability to accelerate spending of its capital budget. The board is hard at work in creating the requisite capacity. The chair of the board is here, so he have heard for himself what stakeholders are thinking. So it's not my thing. He has heard for himself and his colleagues and the management of PRASA about how some of the ineptness there is affecting business development at PRASA. We want PRASA to move with speed in terms of modernization program. This program was conceptualized in the times of Lucky Montana. The only thing is that PRASA got so depleted from a capacity point of view, and it could not implement this program of modernization, and it could not spend the money that is allocated for CAPEX. So we've got a lot of money there that is accumulating and so on, interest, but it's not been spent. And every time there is a challenge of the pandemic and so on, Treasury, they take that money away. Reprioritization, the money goes somewhere. So that is the knock-off effect that we've got in terms of dealing with the issues there by PRASA. Theft and vandalism of public assets is a source of concern for all of us. It is for that reason that we have adopted a comprehensive strategy to deal with challenge in a decisive manner. So there is a suggestion here about the army deployment to array reserves, to protect the infrastructure and so on. We may look into that, but we believe that PRASA, with the capacity of getting the right people for security capacity at PRASA, we can deal with the questions of security. PRASA did well with the wave of violence in the country, and people keep asking the question, what were you protecting, because everything is destroyed? Let me tell you, it was a battle of Afghanistan in central Johannesburg, Park Station. They were attacking Park Station, and they were hit hard by the deployment that PRASA did, because once we saw that this anarchy is moving up, then we said PRASA must activate security capacity to deal with this. So it was a battle of Afghanistan to protect that Park Station. But that Park Station will be gone now if it was not defended. And because that is the problem what happened at PRASA. When we stopped the trains during the lockdown, PRASA board and the administrator did not take a decision to activate security, to protect. So vandalism escalated, which is what you see now. They were even taking rails. I don't know, they say they're taking them to Zimbabwe. Don't know to do what. But they just went on and on because of absence of security. Not that there is no vandalism at PRASA. There was vandalism, but it was worsened during the lockdown. Because trains, after so many years, it was for the first time we stopped the trains. If you go to Kliptown, the people who built shacks around Kliptown there, they vandalized that station and they took everything and built shacks. And when you go to Kliptown, you saw when I was doing rounds, there is nothing. Nothing. You go to Jamestown, the change rooms for train drivers are vandalized because they were not protected. They are fairly in a safe environment, but they were vandalized, everything taken. I've noted the issue relating to the wage agreement signed with PRASA, and will look into this matter within the ambit of constrained resources. But it is the mandate of management and the board to deal with these matters, with the unions. Now, at PRASA, there is what is called Autopex. It's bankrupt. So they don't know what to do with it. And they are not telling the workers the truth. So we need to work with the private sector, intervention. We need private money in some of these things. We talk about the branch lines that need to be maintained and revived for for commuting. If you look at Botshabelo and Mangaung, people commuting between Botshabelo and Mangaung, and there is a railway line there. So if we revive those branch lines and work with the private sector to come to the party, we will save and will create more jobs. The same with Autopax. Our approach is not to think first, sell. How can we work together with the private sector to save Autopax? Can we do that? We need to think about that with the board and ourselves. We need to get private money into our space in order to be able to save some of these entities. Otherwise, we are faced with a bigger crisis. Save them and save the employment of people. Because it's going to be a bloodbath. 800 workers employed in a company that was mismanaged and run down, flat. And then you put those people into the street. And Autopax has got the lucrative roads. So if you capitalize that business, you get it back on track, you will save 800 jobs. And in the meantime, we need to think of what do we need to do to salvage the situation and basically pay the workers and all of that, but have a long-term business strategy. Everybody, when they run out of ideas, they think about business rescue. And business rescue is leading you straight to liquidation. There's no turning back. So before you even get there, can you activate another model that can work? So these are ideas that we want from you, and I would like to work with the private sector in relation to this matter. We are finalizing the appointment of the licensing council, and announcements to this effect will be made. I agree with you, things are a bit slow and sloppy, and they shouldn't be. We are not facing a big crisis at the DOT, so on some of these issues we need to move with speed. So I'm just saying, as I conclude, that this interaction is now multiplying itself to concrete engagement with the minister and my teams going forward. So we're not closing the door. And I think there are valuable inputs that have been made here, and my team has collated these inputs and will make follow-up with some of you in relation to the work that we need to do going forward. The most important thing in terms of these entities, and that is challenging in South Africa, is to get the right people to run entities. That is the biggest challenge. I can tell you, with regard to the appointment of the boards, I've gone out of my way to try and get the right people. I appoint women, I appoint educated people with requisite skills. When they get to these boards, their agenda changes. With their education and requisite skills, they start fighting among themselves. I can give an example of many. And you must go to the database and look at those people who are fighting there. Well educated, you give them entities and they are black. You give them entities, I don't even know some of them. I just appoint because this person has got skills. Some of them are young. So when they get to these boards, their agenda changes. They see billions in front of them. Then they start to develop different ideas. And that's what happens most of the time. So you keep on having this instability, because what the board is supposed to do is to hold management accountable and give them space to operate. And then where such has happened, and people are not delivering, clearly you've got to take action. You can't sit there with a person with incompetence and then a lot of excuses. But the person stays in the job because he's good enough to do certain things. But he's protected. But the delivery, dololo. Dololo. But the guy is there, or is a nice to have, Plompot. You see, because he's doing the other things that other people want. He's a nice to have. Boards don't touch these people, they're untouchables. People don't perform. Remember when we employ you and we don't know you. And we give you a top job. When you are a CEO, we take it that that is the ceiling. There is no learning curve when you are a CEO. Hey, I'm still learning. What learning? Why did you apply for a job? A CEO comes to the job with his package. He says to you, I'm going to deal with this company in 6 months, give me 3 years, and then I'm coming with my people. Take it or leave it. A CEO who accepts to be put on probation, you must know that person doesn't know their story. A CEO comes and says, I'm going to change this thing for you, this. I'm coming with the following terms. Are you agreeable to those terms? And then the board says, no, you know what, you know, and then he says, okay, look elsewhere, me, I'm not coming, and easy. And then you don't get the job, and when you are in the job, you start telling us that you are learning. And then, Tina, we are faced with a problem. And you've got all qualifications, but you are learning. Why did you employ that person if he's coming to learn? He's not coming to transform and make you smile at night that things are happening. It doesn't work like that. It's a deal, it's a contract. When you employ a person, he comes with his demands, which you must negotiate hard. And then if he's not moving, you are able to say, but you said in 6 months you'll do the following, but we are seeing load shedding every day. Let me make an example about something that is not here, load shedding. You see, no, I'm trying. No, there's no trying. Where are these things that you said you are going to? Remember, the CEO comes with his own experts. The people who are going to assist him. He runs business. And then if the board is giving him problem, he can go to the shareholder and say that, hey, those people are not giving me a chance to breathe. They want to run the company. And I'm telling them that they must wait. So that's what CEOs do. And if they don't deliver, show them the door. Because mina, I'm from local government elections. Angizwile man. Angishawe kakhulu. Hey bangishayile laba bantu. Uyabona ngizwile. But hey, I'm a train balula. Hey, I don't have trains. Potholes. Hey, I can't close potholes. Yeah, so e-tolls, we're going to resolve e-tolls. And why you must believe me is because it is now formal what I was communicating. And I'm telling you formally that, look, we are dealing with the matter with the Minister of Finance. Because you South African people have come with a demand to government that we must scrap e-tolls. If we don't scrap, you don't pay. You don't comply. So we've got a big social disobedience around the e-tolls. People are not paying. Even people of Soweto who are not affected by e-tolls, you'll see them on TV saying that, Ngalama e-tolls gambalula. But the e-tolls is not affected because he's using bus to work. But he says that ngama e-tolls, you know. It is the middle class, me and you, who are affected by the e-tolls, who are driving every day between Pretoria, Joburg, and Ekurhuleni, and wherever we go. And you guys have said that you are not going to pay. So government is now having to look at the issue of scrapping of e-tolls. Scrapping or not scrapping has got financial implications. And to our funding model in terms of sustaining the road network in the country and maintenance. So what do? We put the matter of scrapping to cabinet, and then when I met with OUTA and the unions, COSATU, they said to me, no, look at fuel levy. So I went to Treasury, I said, no, let's put this thing on fuel levy. Now, those people there, they crunch numbers, ne? And then when it comes to tax policy, it is them. It is their call, not mine. So that is what we are dealing with. And then they say, okay, let's look at what we can do. Because there is civil disobedience, people are not paying. Remember, if you don't pay, the money to pay the debt of the e-tolls, you know where does it come from? From the money that is allocated for road maintenance. Those billions I was reading here, part of that money is going to the e-tolls every month. We're paying them. That's why they say, we don't care where you get the money from fuel levy or wherever, but as long as you pay us our money, that is fine. So there is a debt. Somebody was paying, somebody was not paying. You owe. So do we cancel that debt, among others? What do we do? What are the implications? Do we then return the money for those who were paying? So those are the things we look at, and that is where Treasury comes in. And you say, why does it take time? It takes time. We went to cabinet, a decision was taken. When it was supposed to be implemented to scrap the e-tolls, Treasury said, no, wait. You can't. So that's where we are. Now, we have done a lot of work between then and today. So we will be ready by February to make an announcement on this matter and how we are going to handle the e-toll thing in South Africa. So the Minister of Finance will be in a position to make the announcement in the budget speech in February. If not, we may make that announcement even before the budget speech if cabinet and us are in agreement on the way forward. And the deadline now is February. So I thought we will deal with this matter in the midterm budget. He then said, no, let's deal with it later. And then I agreed that we'll deal with it in February. So we can't go beyond February even ourselves. We know that. We can't. If we go beyond that, we're bringing a crisis for SANRAL forever and ever. So SANRAL will be in crisis, and then will not have taken a decision. It will continuously affect their balance sheet, and we'll have all sorts of challenges out of that. So we've got to take that decision. And we are working with Treasury on the right decision that we need to take and the formula in terms of the e-tolls. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now give to the chair of the portfolio committee to make final remarks. But from me, Ngiyabulela. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, thank you for the opportunity. Let me also quickly acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Minister, the DG and the officials, chairs and CEOs of our entities, and all the stakeholders that are here. I do not want to stand between you and your lunch, therefore I'll try to be as short as possible. Let me start first by hoping that all this middle class that is here today did go and vote during the local elections. I think it is important that all of us should have done that. Minister, if I was here earlier on, I would have requested that one of the permits at the door there should be us checking the finger whether people did go and vote. I also want to hasten and say to all the males that are here with us today, yesterday we launched the 16 days of activism, and as part of the people who were launching that 16 days of activism, I committed myself that I should be counted in ensuring that we fight with this scourge of abuse, and we are counted as real gentlemen. I hope that each and every male in here will endeavor to be counted in ensuring that we are not looked upon as monsters against our mothers, our sisters, and our own children. Thank you, Minister, for allowing a practical engagement between Parliament and executive and stakeholders. As per the Constitution, we are all children of the same pot. We are just different in terms of what we normally do. I do appreciate what the department is doing, engaging in an open with stakeholders, hearing them. As part of Parliament, doing our oversight, we have taken all the request that has been made to the minister, whether be it issues of vandalism, whether be issues of RSR doing its work. We have written all of them. In fact, I can tell you that as a portfolio committee, most of these issues like your vacancies are the issues that we are dealing with. I just want to concur that the minister and the deputy minister and the DG did give you a true reflection of what we also were given at the level of the portfolio committee. We also want to take this opportunity maybe here in the open and congratulate all the entities that are doing well. We had a headache concerning 2 entities, and I see one of the 2 entities has actually come to be stable, and they are trying to do their work as they are supposed to do. That is Road Accident Fund. I agree with you and the minister that something must be done when it comes to PRASA, so that we stabilize PRASA and give services to our people. Otherwise, the minister has spoken. Let me not really spoil what he has said, and appreciate the fact that I was given this opportunity not to criticize but to build on what the department is already achieving. Thank you, Minister, for giving me that opportunity, lest I spoil the party.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zwane, for your remarks, and the Deputy Minister and Minister for your closing remarks. I'd like to thank all the representatives of the entities within the Transport Department, the stakeholders and partners of transport in South Africa, and colleagues from the media. We have come to the end of the program, but there's one point I'd like to make And Tate Majavu has just pointed it out to me. It was mentioned earlier that the RTMC had wasteful expenditure of 7.4 million rands, and he reckons this may have been an inadvertent mistake, that actually the amount is 7,486 rands, not 7.4. Because it's in their speech and the speech is going to be circulated, so let it be noted that it was 7,486. And this is an interest that was levied by Telkom and has been reversed. So, in other words, their numbers are in order. Is that okay? Do we understand each other, right? Okay, so, I mean, whatever needs to be done will be corrected where it should be corrected. But on a much more important note, which I'm sure you're looking forward to, this being a Friday and this being an afternoon, is that lunch is going to be served, believe it or not. And it's going to happen now, just behind us here. Thank you very much to the department for being open and frank and disclosing so much information for the benefit of your stakeholders. And I think civil society in South Africa appreciates the fact that you are willing to level with us in this frank manner, and we now know what to anticipate. So please keep it up and keep doing this kind of things, because it helps us make sense of what's going on within a department as important as this one. Otherwise, from my side, thank you very much for having been with me and giving me the opportunity to come and learn. Let's go and enjoy lunch and network for those who'd like to network. Thank you.